It is May the 1st, which means we are inching towards college football season, getting closer to it. And we have college football to discuss. Brian Haydad will be with us at 7:15. We'll talk a little Mississippi State spring ball, but also you don't expect Mississippi State to make a head coaching change in baseball midseason. They've done that. Why? How? What's next? Are other SEC schools on notice for their head coach? We'll talk to Brian Haydad about that in about 15 minutes. Matt Sims covers the NFL draft, former SEC quarterback. He'll be with us at 8 a.m. Talk to him about what he expects from not only the rookie quarterbacks and where they're headed, maybe some of the second-year quarterbacks next year as well. Because you think about it, Greg, you kind of have J.J. McCarthy, a rookie quarterback, this upcoming season too.
Yes.
He didn't play. So, obviously he's not going to count in this year's rookie class, but you could look at him and say, well, we almost should count you as a rookie quarterback because you haven't played yet. Mike Penix got, his
a little bit, feet wet down the stretch.
Got a chance to sort of, dip the toe in the water and say, all right, this is how it feels. This is what it's going to look like. And then we saw Jaden Daniels be excellent. Drake May looks like the Patriots are doing some things around him. Is there one more than the other that you have higher, greater expectations for when you talk sort of year two quarterbacks coming up this year in the NFL?
Well, if I'm not able to include Penix, I'm very bullish on Michael Penix. I think he's got all the game. I think his skill set translates. I think he can turn the ball over. I think he's got a pretty decent supporting cast. So I'm super bullish on him. But if I had to go with one that is well equipped to have a great year this upcoming year, I don't know how you can't say JJ McCarthy. Like, JJ McCarthy's in a perfect situation. Like, look at what Sam Darnold did last year. Look at what Kirk Cousins did the year before that. This is an offense that is extremely quarterback friendly. And I think with JJ McCarthy's mobility, he's got more mobility than Darnold and Cousins by a mile.
Yeah.
They marry up some of the outside run game with his bootleg ability and holding the backside. It's going to open up the run game. It's going to open up the pass game. It's going to be able to set up some play action. You're not going to be able to rush the passer with great intensity. Like, I think it could not be a better situation for how McCarthy fits with what Minnesota wants to be.
Is there a rookie quarterback that was just drafted that you feel like you have really good, maybe even past normal rookie QB expectations for this upcoming season when you look at the situation that they were drafted into, and then maybe also just look at the type player they are?
I think Jackson Dart's going to have early success. I think they'll run him. I think Dable knows he has to win. So they're going to do some things with Jackson Dart that they did early in Josh Allen's career, I would imagine. Running him, using his athleticism, making sure that that's a part of how it is they attack folks. And I think it makes sense to go about it that way. I just don't think it's long-term going to be a great plan. But in the near term, in the short term, it makes sense. That's what I'm expecting, at least for him. But I think he's in a pretty good situation. I think they got pretty good weapons. I think Dable knows and has done this before with Josh Allen. And kind of, I think they kind of, tough division, obviously, but kind of have a chance to make things a little interesting when they're outside of the division. But right now, how do you like them over the Commanders? How do you like them over the Eagles? How do you like them over the Cowboys? You don't. But if they can just take care of business outside the division, they might be all right.
Yeah, for sure. That division will be interesting to watch this year. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And then we'll also talk to Nick Roush, in hour number 2, get his thoughts on Kentucky spring. There are a lot of new faces. There are some that are giant question marks, don't really know. This has been a program, Greg, the last couple of years that some years we felt really good about it and hadn't got enough credit. Other years we've kind of looked at it and said, I don't. It's been nice the last couple of seasons. Don't know if they're able to continue and sustain what they've been doing the last few years. This is the total wild card for me this year as far as Lexington and what that team's going to look like, which is probably not a real positive.
Probably not a negative, though, either. Like, I like Zach Calzada. I've liked him for years. I liked him when Auburn got him. I think the kid can throw it. Now, I do think there might be some intangible aspects that are frustrating with his inability to be available on a regular basis, but he had a good year last year. I think he's got a big arm, and I'm cautiously optimistic it might work out for him. Now, do I think he has a great supporting cast? Probably not. Do I think the best football for Kentucky is behind them? Probably. in the near term. But then again, they have just so many pieces to replace on defense. It's just hard to know what they're going to be on defense. I think they'll be fine on offense, but defense, I do have question marks.
Right. All right, so all of that coming up across the course of the show today. Quarterback's a big topic of conversation for this upcoming season in college football. Obviously, we have portal movement. We have different guys that have been on the move that maybe are going to be better suited to be somewhere else. And a list that you recently put out has people big mad, big angry, frustrated for a lot of different reasons, and some happy for a lot of different reasons. Your top 10 quarterbacks for this college football season, that list is out. Let's go through criteria first, just kind of how you put this together, sort of what you thought it was going to be, and maybe some things that happened with it when you were putting it together that folks would not notice on the surface.
Well, first thing, you have to play.
I don't really think that should be important. Why is that a part of anything?
Wow. Well, I'm sorry.
Can't you just look at stars and then rank them that way?
I would love to. Unfortunately, there's plenty of 5 stars that aren't good. Brock Vandagriff is like a can't miss prospect. Like, how did that go for Kentucky last year? So Jackson Arnold, how did that go for Oklahoma? Like, yes, I understand that we're all excited about Arch Manning, but he hasn't played yet. And don't tell me that a game against ULM and Mississippi State, who had the 126th ranked total defense, are good indicators of future success. Do I think he's going to be good? Absolutely. But I can't put him in the top 10 right now. So I would say having played is important. Past productivity is important. And then I think supporting cast has to factor in too. You can't play quarterback by yourself. Like, if you have a good supporting cast, you're naturally going to be in a better situation. Which is why one player went from being locked at the top 7 or 8 to falling out of the top 10 because of a recent adjustment to his supporting cast. So I think all those things can factor in. System matters. Conference matters. Where you play, who you play against. You take a Big 12 quarterback and put him in the SEC. I don't think he'd be a top 10 quarterback anymore in some cases. You take an SEC quarterback moving to the Big 12, they might immediately jump up to the ladder because of what they might be able to accomplish in that league. So I think a lot of factors go into it, and try to be pretty level-headed about it. You guys understand that. And try to go a little bit with upside too. Some of these guys, I'm going a little bit with upside, thinking that the projection of what they could be this upcoming year is pretty exciting for what it could mean for their future prospects.
All right, so you roll through these top 10 quarterbacks, and let's just get to the one first that people had an issue with. There was no Arch Manning in your top 10. How close was it? Was it one that you considered? Was it one that you thought maybe should be there?
No. And under no circumstances should he be a top 10 quarterback. He can be a top 10 talent. I don't have a problem with that. I think people have a hard time separating talent from potential. Like, yes, talent and potential, awesome. Production, I said potential. Production is a totally different thing. And you can look at Arch Manning's numbers, and yeah, they were pretty impressive last year. 9 touchdowns against 2 interceptions, 68% completion, 108 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. But I often joke about this, but I would offer up the against who? Almost all of those numbers came against UT San Antonio, Louisiana Monroe, and Mississippi State. Yeah. Louisiana Monroe was the best defense he played last year, and that was the 83rd ranked defense in the country. With Texas's players, I might add. The UT San Antonio Roadrunners had the 124th ranked pass defense, and the Mississippi State Bulldogs were 126th in total defense. So you can, great, the numbers are great. I think he's going to be awesome. I hope he's great. I fully believe he will be, but you cannot under any circumstance justify putting him in the top 10 right now. You can say, oh, he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. What does that matter? If we did the number 1 overall pick last year, Quinn Ewers might have been the number 1 overall pick. He would have been in some people's discussion. I don't think there's any doubt about it. For sure. Carson Beck was the number 1 overall pick going into last year. Carson Beck was the number 1 overall pick starting at about the Georgia-Florida game the previous year on for a lot of folks. So it's like the number 1 overall pick. Like, I don't care about that. I care about if I need a college quarterback, having a guy that's actually done it is very helpful. This is a college list. This is not, this guy is going to be the next Joe Burrow. And I'm not talking college Joe Burrow. I'm talking NFL Joe Burrow. I'm not projecting Pat Mahomes here. I'm not talking about NFL prospects. I'm talking about if I had to win a game in college, who do I want right now? If I had to put the team on a guy's shoulders in college, who do I want right now? And frankly, with Arch, I saw him play against Texas last year, and it wasn't pretty. Or he's played against Georgia last year, and it wasn't pretty. I hate to break it to you. It's not flawless tape. And I wouldn't expect it to be. He's still a young player.
Not easy to come in fill-in role like that, first and foremost.
Heck
and then,
no.
of course, doesn't have a ton of actual in-game experience. So it's why you've always credited and complimented the way that it's being handled, is because it's going to give him massive advantages down the road.
Yep.
You go Cade Klubnik number 1, and I think a lot of that is not only going to be based on his potential, his talent, but specifically what he did later in the year last year. And when you look at it specifically against who he was playing, it's hard to push back on it because we know the talent's been in there. I mean, he was the incumbent when he got there. These conversations we're having about Arch, some of those were about Klubnik. You know, if you recall, when Klubnik came in, it was, I'm not worried about losing QB. I'm not worried about a new QB. You seen this Klubnik kid? No, actually haven't. But folks didn't really care about that.
And it was a struggle.
Once
for
again,
a year.
It took him a few minutes to figure it out.
Yep.
Didn't exactly get it going right away, but he goes for 336, 3 touchdowns against Texas. Obviously ran the ball well. You go back to that SMU game, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions in that game. He looked great in the postseason and looked great towards the end of the year. So I imagine a combination of all those things that you just mentioned and what he has around him coming back with his experience, the reason that he ended up number 1.
Yes, and the year-over-year progression. Like I said, it's a little bit of a projection here. Year-over-year progress from where he was last year in 2023 to where he was in 2024 to where he could be in 2025. Like, I have not seen very many guys improve as much as Cade Klubnik did from one year to the next. I mean, he was sensational last year. He had 17 more touchdowns throwing it in 2024 than he did in 23. He finished 36-6. He increased his downfield throw percentage, doubled it on the amount of times he threw downfield and the average depth of target. He completes nearly 50% of his passes thrown 20 plus yards. He improved as a runner. He also displayed massive game-breaking ability with his legs against both Pitt and NC State, in which he had 2 50-plus yard runs. One against Pitt was in the waning minutes and won the game with the QB draw to the house. And I also think he deserves a little bit of credit for being resilient. This is a guy that I think took warranted criticism 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And really didn't allow it to phase him. Just put his head down, kept working, and got better. And the supporting cast is also exceptionally good. Like, I'm really bullish on the supporting cast. I think his receivers take a backseat to very few in college football. They got 2 freshmen, soon to be sophomores, that are going to be legit in Wesco and Moore. You got Antonio Williams back in the slot. Tyler Brown's still there. And you bring in a couple more young guys too. So I think his supporting cast is excellent. The offense is very quarterback friendly, plays in a manageable division, in a manageable league. And I think could very easily bring home the Heisman Trophy this year. Like, I think he's got that type of upside.
All right, that's number 1. We'll get through the rest. We'll continue talking quarterbacks.
Before we get to the rest, though, your thoughts on Klubnik?
I love it. I think it's why I've said that I've got them solely in the playoffs right now. I think they'll make a deep playoff run. They would be one of a few national championship contenders that I would offer you up right now if you wanted to make a pick. There's probably 3 to 5 that I feel good about making a selection on to not just get to the playoffs, but push through. He'd be a big reason that I would. I think I would have Clemson as my favorite to win the national title right now, if you're asking me.
No, I wouldn't push back on it.
And I mean, it's you got a solid defensive line, experience at quarterback, a playmaker at quarterback. Like you said, good cast around him. There are bits and pieces we could pick apart, obviously, of course, but that's going to be every team. But I was really impressed with him last year because I was one of the ones that was really let down with him the previous year.
Yeah.
Just really kind of like, okay, this is not what we bargained for. This is not who we thought we were going to get. This is not what everybody sold me. And did a lot of things that I felt really good about last year. And what I really love is specifically late last year. It's like kind of when you talk about the draft, like I talked to a couple guys about the Texas defensive tackles that were coming out, like Vernon Broughton was one. And one of the things that I love about those two this year and what they did is they got better week in, week out.
Right.
I love it when guys get better towards the end of the season. And it just because it shows me they're not on cruise control. They're taking coaching. They're still coachable. They're learning from mistakes. And that's kind of what I felt like we got from Klubnik last year. And so I think those are all massive advantages moving into next season for Clemson. Like I said, we'll keep talking about it. We'll ask Brian Haydad about Mississippi State's quarterback situation, talk to him about spring football, what's next for their baseball team, and then we'll come back to the quarterback conversation after Brian joins us next. Before we get to Brian, don't forget about the weather. You had some storms pop up literally out of nowhere last night here in Alabama, and you don't want to have to deal with it. You know it can be unpredictable. That's why you need the reliability of a Trane, voted America's most trusted HVAC brand right now. You can receive up to a 10-year warranty on parts and labor on select Trane home comfort systems. Find out more at Trane.com. And remember, it's hard to stop a train. We'll be back with Brian Haydad to talk Mississippi State next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7:20 Thursday, May the 1st, right here on Jocks 94.5. Glad you're with us. You can watch live on YouTube, listen live on jocksfm.com. You can also grab the app. It's in your app store, iPhone, Android. Download that for free. Before we get to Brian Haydad, I'll tell you about Game Day Men's Health. If you're feeling on edge, if you're lacking sleep, Game Day Men's Health can help you. Maybe you just want to lose a little bit of weight. Doesn't have to be the testosterone replacement therapy, which they do offer for all of that. Also, peptides in stock now for multiple things, anti-aging, to curb your appetite, maybe to help you sleep better. Different concoctions that can help you with your daily routine. Your body stops making these over time. Game Day Men's Health going to find a way to get these back into you to get your daily routine looking better. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. You sign up for a free consultation now. You get the free PSA test, the free testosterone test. They'll tell you where your health is and what they think they can do for you. Multiple options that they can help you with. Save 10% on any of those options by mentioning Mac and Cube when you walk in the front door. Holistic approach to health and wellness, minimal upfront cost for the programs they offer. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. All right, Brian Haydad joins us now. You hear him on radio in Mississippi, covers the Mississippi State Bulldogs. We do not expect this program to make a change mid-season when referencing Mississippi State baseball. Why now? How did this happen? And do you think it was the right move for this program?
I understand the timing of it because it was going to be a situation where this team is talented enough to get into the postseason. They are talented enough to win these final three series and find their way into the postseason. And that would have presented a situation where the waters just get a little muddy, where, okay, he came back, they made the postseason. Are we sure we want to make a move? We're going to fire a coach that made the regional. But in reality, the standard of Mississippi State baseball is high enough that just making regionals shouldn't be the bar for Mississippi State. It should be competing for championships. And Chris Lemonis, since he won that national title, just had not done that. And the program had just not been what we thought it was going to be in the summer of 2021, when most people would have told you, okay, now that State's broken through and finally broken through that glass ceiling of winning the national title, they're going to take off and become one of the elite programs. And it just hasn't happened that way. So honestly, I thought he probably should have lost his job in 2023 when he had back-to-back seasons of missing the SEC tournament. Never mind the NCAA tournament, the SEC tournament. But last year gave him a little bit of reprieve. But it was just to the point now where this was the move that we all knew it was going to happen. And now you allow your team to go out and play baseball the last 3 weekends of the regular season without the cloud of, are we going to cost our coach his job hanging over them? And Coach Parker addressed that in the game Tuesday night. He said the team felt like they had a breath of fresh air when they went out there and played on Tuesday.
Well, with Justin Parker taking over as the interim, is this also maybe in a roundabout way an opportunity to kind of see if he might be a candidate, or does he just not have the experience and this will be some type of home run for the swing for the fences type of hire that Zach Selman's going to try to lead and land?
Yeah, I mean, short of leading this team to Omaha, I wouldn't think Justin Parker would be a real serious candidate for Mississippi State in this one. I think he's an outstanding pitching coach and would not have an issue with a new coach coming in and letting him remain on staff, because I think he's been very good for State. But I expect State to go after some big names in this one. They've got a good list of candidates to choose from, some guys who they feel like they can get. And then if they miss on head coaches, there's a couple of elite assistants out there that I think that would be good hires for Mississippi State. Because, I mean, you look at the guy that I consider the best coach in the conference right now, he was an assistant, Tony Vitello. And, maybe you try to strike lightning in a bottle and find the next one of those guys. So I think there will be some big names associated with this. And I think Mississippi State is willing to spend on baseball. We'll just have to see what Zach Selman is able to do.
Visiting with Brian Haydad, talking Mississippi State baseball, but now going to shift over to Mississippi State football. Coming through spring, we weren't able to really see as much as we wanted, maybe get an idea visually as much as we normally do because of how spring's changing for so many of these programs. Based on what you saw, based on what you heard, what's the most positive outlook that has changed for you around this Mississippi State football team heading into this season?
It's funny you asked that, because the thing that's been the most positive has been the things that's happened in the days since the spring game, and that's Phil Lodeholt, the offensive line coach, has been so active in the portal over these past few days. He came into state late, came in after Colorado's bowl game, so he missed the early signing period, and took one look at his room and basically said, nope, that's not going to work for me, and has brought in 4 new faces that, you know, a couple of those guys have played some major college football, which is good because you can't get them on the practice field. You're really going to have to rely on your evaluations there. But it looks like State's making a really concerted effort to improve on the offensive line. The first time we talked to Levy in the spring, he said, we got to get better in that room. And then in every subsequent time we talked to him, he said, we've got to get better in that room. I had him on my podcast. He said, we've got to get better in that room. So that's what they're doing right now. That gives you some hope that the offensive line can at least be a serviceable SEC level offensive line, because I think they have some talent at the skill positions. And so hopefully offensively they can be a little bit more consistent this year.
Looking at the defense and how they try to improve on that side of the ball, obviously a huge point of contention. It's not going to happen overnight, but hopefully they're going to make some strides this year to at least close the gap. What do you think is realistic for that side of the ball?
If they can go from historically bad to bad, Mississippi State could be a bowl team. You know, and that sounds kind of weird, but this is the stat that I've been saying a lot recently. So State last year was 16th in total in scoring defense. LSU was 15th in scoring defense. The gap between LSU and State was the same gap between LSU and Ole Miss, who was first in scoring defense. That's how bad State was defensively. They basically lapped the conference in giving up points. And so if they can just be bad, below average, mediocre, this is a team that will have a chance to go to a bowl game. They certainly, from a depth perspective, are better this year. They have more players who deserve to play in the SEC. They had guys last year who had no business playing SEC football, none. And you hate to bring Mike Leach's name in this, but his last few recruiting classes were not great at Mississippi State. And you go into this year, at least with a depth chart that looks like it can compete. I just don't know if they have enough difference makers. You know, there's not you think about Mississippi State, there's not a Chris Jones or a Jeff Simmons or a Montez Sweat on this defensive lineup, I don't think. And if there is one, great. That'll go a long way into getting State better. I also think the addition of Paul Rhodes and Mike McIntyre as defensive analysts, Coleman Hutzler last year, first-time defensive coordinator, and didn't really have a veteran guy on the staff to bounce ideas off of, a guy who had called defenses before. So that was a priority for State this offseason, just to get a couple of veteran voices into the press box for Hutzler to have somebody to talk to. And I think their influence is going to be pretty big this year.
What about the receiver position? Because it was better than people, I guess, imagined or realized last year, but a lot of the production's gone. You mentioned offensive line, they'll replace bodies, and they hope that can be better and possibly will be. But is there any real thought that the receiver position could actually improve based on what some of the guys like Kevin Coleman and company did last year who aren't going to be on the team this fall?
Yeah, that's a good question because, they definitely went potential over production. They focused on speed. They wanted to get faster there. They brought in some guys they feel can get deep. The thing with Jeff Levy and his offense, though, is the receivers just always do well. If you look at his stats year to year, there's always one guy who's going to be a 70, 80 catch guy, 800, 900 yards. You mentioned Kevin Coleman. That's who it was for State last year. So somebody in that receiver room is going to have a big season. The health of Blake Chapin is going to be a big key in all this, because if you don't have him, you've got 2 inexperienced guys, too. They're talented, but they're very, very inexperienced guys behind him. But between Anthony Evans, Aiden Williams, Brennan Thompson, and a couple of other guys, State I know that Levy likes the talent that he has in that room. He was pretty upfront about that. But at the same time, you're right. None of these guys are proven guys. The way he even got a season ago when you brought in Kelly Akari, who had been a 1,000-yard receiver. Kevin Coleman had been good at Louisville. We'll just have to wait and see. But I will give Levy the benefit of the doubt when it comes to recruiting receivers.
Quarterback situation. We know it's going to be Blake Shapen to start. have a hard time thinking that it won't be him, to be honest with you. But they did bring in Croman Hoke from Florida State. I kind of like his game. Is this a quarterback battle or is this shape and show?
Chapin's the starting quarterback. He'll be starter week one. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Levy really likes him. Thinks he can when he's healthy he can be good. But that's the key word with Blake Chapin is being healthy. He's never played a full season. Went down in week 4 last week. Wasn't playing poorly. He was not the reason I thought State was struggling at that time. If he's healthy, he can be a productive quarterback. And you mentioned Croman Hawk, and yeah, I thought he looked okay in the spring scrimmage or whatever you want to call what State did. But fans here are super excited about the true freshman Camario Taylor from nearby Noxubee County, from Macon, Mississippi, same hometown as Jeff Simmons. And we're gonna call him Dollar General Cam Newton for right now because he looks like him, 6'4", 225, 230 pounds, big arm, looks the part. Ton of talent. You can see the talent when you watch him play, but he's a true freshman. And, they didn't do that last year. When Chapin went down, they threw a true freshman into the fire. I thought Van Buren played okay. Thought he played pretty well at times, played like a freshman at other times. You probably get the same thing with Taylor, but, Chapin staying healthy, I'll believe that when I see it. If he can do it, great. If not, they're going to have to go to one of those inexperienced guys.
What was the Van Buren situation? Just transactional? He was going to get more money to be a backup at LSU. Figured he'd be a backup again at State. Like what? Because I'm with you. I thought he did some nice things. The protection wasn't there. He took some big hits. He was close on a lot of things. Like I thought he showed real progress. And if you look at the situation, you would say, okay, you're not the starter, but Chapin probably not going to be healthy anyway. So you probably will be the starter soon. Was it just financial?
I don't think it was financial as much because you're correct about with Chapin getting healthy, you really are just one play away. That cliche does really work for Mississippi State. But I think that, State, as you recall, was very interested in Jackson Arnold and was very interested in Luke Croman Hawk and made it obvious they wanted to bring in another young quarterback. They had Taylor committed as well. So I think Van Buren just kind of looked at it and said, well, Nussmeier's going to be gone after this year. I can get back onto the field a little bit quicker. Whereas at State, if they at that moment when he signed with LSU, or committed to LSU, State was still in the Jackson Arnold sweepstakes there, and he thought, well, maybe my time's going to be over with because of Arnold and Levy's relationship. Ended up not getting Arnold here to Mississippi State, but they did get in Croman Hawk, and I think he viewed it as they don't see me as the future if they're bringing in these young guys, so he made his move to LSU.
Appreciate the time, Brian. Always great stuff. We love your updates and just kind of wanted to get second thoughts on not only spring and the football, but what's going to happen with baseball. So we'll catch up with you again soon. Thanks for hopping on.
All right, guys. Thanks for talking to me.
There you go. Brian Haydad. We like talking to you.
He's fine.
He thanked us for speaking to him. That's a regular thing that he do people not speak to him enough to where he has to thank people for speaking to him?
Thank you for letting me come on and talk about
You
the
are
bullies.
welcome for being spoken to.
Big fan of Brian Haydad. He's been a good friend for a long time.
Does a great job. A lot of optimism there that I don't think a lot of other people have with that Mississippi State team and program heading into the season, but a couple of things kind of shape up, specifically at quarterback with shape in. Maybe it will be a little bit different. Speaking of quarterbacks, we're going back to McElroy's top 10 entering this season. Who comes in after number 1, Cade Klubnik? We'll discuss those next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7:37 a.m. Thursday, May the 1st, right here on Jocks 94.5, talking top 10 quarterbacks returning in college football this season. We'll continue rolling through Greg McElroy's list. Cade Klubnik came in at number 1. I don't think that there should be a lot of debate there. Was that one? And speaking of quarterbacks, quickly, I wanted to get this in. Jordan Travis has medically retired.
Yeah, I saw that. That's a bummer. Broken leg, dislocated ankle, and I guess according to him, leg never responded.
Yeah, he says on November. By the way, an actual written, what do we call this? Notification letter, like his actual writing, handwriting, and then a photograph of it. So did not use the screenshot of the notepad. Actually wrote a note out and has nice enough handwriting to where he can actually read it. I would probably struggle with that. November 18th, 2023, my life and career took an unexpected turn, gave everything I had to the rehab process, but despite my efforts, my leg never responded the way we hoped. After much prayer consultation with my doctor's medical team, I have been medically advised to retire from the game I love so deeply. So, hate to see that because you wanted him to try to get back and a great career at Florida State, did some awesome things.
Yeah.
And just seeing some of his teammates respond to that as well, just tough. You never want it to end outside of your own decisions, and you want it to be your call. And obviously, that's not one that he has a lot of control over. So, hate to see it for him, but wish him the best with whatever's next. So, what's next for us is going to be that top 10 quarterback list again that Greg McElroy has received. Number 2, John Mateer. He'll be at Oklahoma now. Was at Washington State, and you and I have had multiple conversations about him on the show. And this is one where I don't think a lot of people have, I don't even think casually seen him play, much less taken a dive into what he's capable of doing.
I think that's the problem. No one's watched this guy.
Hasn't seen it.
No one's seen this guy. Like
what do you think?
Watch him.
Being honest here, what do you think the biggest game of the year was for him last year? And I don't mean this as far as level of competition. I just mean as far as where people would have accidentally said, oh, yeah, I want to go watch that game.
Texas Tech. Apple Cup, probably. Apple Cup, probably the biggest.
Yeah.
And no one watched that.
So when were people supposed to find it? And Texas Tech, by the way, was week 2. Washington was week 3.
Yeah.
So after September 14th, I guess, Boise was a pretty big game.
Yeah.
He went for 327 and 2 touchdowns in that one. But then the rest of the way, Fresno, Hawaii, San Diego State, Utah State, New Mexico, Oregon State, Wyoming, Syracuse in the bowl, and he didn't play in the bowl. So, yeah, there weren't a ton of opportunity for people to say, oh, you know what? There's nothing on. I'm going to go watch this guy play.
Yeah.
And 29 touchdowns, 7 picks last year, over 3,100 passing yards. It's not just that. It's what he's capable of doing with his legs. Also, he ran for 826 and another 15 touchdowns. He's fun to watch, man. Like he's got a little bit of a different gear. He's got different juice. He can get it done. He will take some risks. He's not very big in stature, but he makes up for it in a lot of other ways, Greg.
He does. And I think what makes him, it's his legs that are a problem. And the way he can get defenders to commit, I think he does a great job of having awareness of where the line of scrimmage is. And when he's on the move and he's threatening the line of scrimmage, threatening to take off and run, it's amazing how often defenders leave their coverage responsibility and he all of a sudden finds a big play. He's got a pretty quick release on the move too, so that he can easily pitch it. As soon as a guy commits and steps up, boom, it's out the gate. So I think that's really helpful. I also think that when you look at John Mateer, his accuracy was solid. I don't think he's like one of those guys that's going to just completely carve you up with his accuracy, but I think he's got enough. I don't think he has huge arm, but he's got some wiggle.
The intermediate arm is really good though. Like when he's trying to fit it in over the middle, or when he's on the move, out towards the sideline like that, he's got plenty for that kind of stuff.
Completely agree. I have no issue whatsoever with what he has from an arm talent standpoint. Like I think he is perfectly fine. Not at all concerned that he might not have the biggest arm in the world. I think he's got plenty. So I really like the guy. I think he's excellent. I'm a big fan of his. And I believe that in time, it's going to prove to be true. This guy has just been a little bit buried from a standpoint of no one's seen him play. If you watch him for 2 seconds, and while, yes, the level of talent will step up drastically with where he played against and who he played against last year to where he's going to be playing this year and the teams he'll face. Yes, that's a significant step up in competition. But I also think that when you look at the circumstances with which he had to play at Washington State, I think his situation's almost better at Oklahoma than it was there. And I think the level of challenge of playing against the SEC and the quality of his personnel around him is more than what he had at Washington State. And what I'm also, those that have had a hard time, not a lot of people have fought back on this one, at least in my estimation, because no one's seen him play.
Yeah, I think a lot of people see it and they'll push back initially because they don't know, and then they'll kind of realize it and say, well, I can't push back that hard because I'm not really sure what he looks like.
Correct. He might be good. He might not be. We'll see. It's a little bit of a risk on my part too, because I don't know for sure that he won't get just hit 2 times in that first game and all of a sudden he's not the same guy. I mean, could that happen? Of course it could happen. I don't think it's likely, but I think it could happen. So we'll see. I mean, I really, really, really hope that he's as good as I think he's going to be, because I'm excited to see him play. But I also think that there's a large portion of the population that look at the teams that he played against and assume that's not going to translate. I think it will. But like I said, a bit of a risk, a bit of a dice roll, but I feel really confident in his potential and ability.
Yeah, it's if you haven't seen him, he is twitchy. Like he's quick. He can change directions quickly. He can get from statuesque in the pocket to full speed out of the pocket in a hurry. He's got quick ability to pull up and throw on the run. I do think he loses some accuracy on the run because he's one of those guys that a lot of quarterbacks like Mahomes. When Mahomes is on the move, he doesn't really have a big time full speed. So it looks like he's kind of drifting a lot, and then he's able to throw, and it looks similar to his normal throwing motion. Like Mateer's going fast, and then he's not afraid to try to throw when he's going as fast as he can. So
yeah, he's very difficult to defend.
He is. He's got some. I mean, he kind of reminds me of Mayfield, the way he runs and throws, and like the way he contorts his body when he throws on the move, and he's a playmaker. He's going to be really dangerous in that offense. I think the only thing that I would be concerned with him going in is what you kind of mentioned with getting hit is can that coaching staff coach him to sort of protect himself, at least early on, to see like what he's capable of taking, like what he can really be. You just don't want him to go out there and try to throw across his body when the defensive end's got a clean shot on him and he knows he's going to take it. He's not going to be able to get away with many of those, I don't think.
I think that's fair. And I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to be concerned about.
Yeah.
But I'm rolling the dice here. I think his personnel around him is going to be really good. I love some of the additions they've made. I love the Jaden Ott addition recently.
Yep.
I love what you got with Burks, and I think they have plenty of other weapons around him. Like I think he's in a great position to be in a spot where he can really, really contend for, Heisman Trophy status and All-American level status.
All right, let's get past number 2. When we come back on the other side, we'll continue rolling through Greg McElroy's top 10 quarterbacks heading into this college football season. Another name that some people might look at and say, really, when we get to number 3, probably not 4, 5, or 6, but more from this top 10 list when we return next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7:50, Thursday, May 1st. Jocks 94.5. Major League Baseball last night. Braves go down to the Rockies. Dodgers take down the Marlins 12-7. Orioles take out the Yanks 5-4. Mets go down to the D-backs 4-3, but Mets now tied with the Dodgers for best record in baseball. So Mets have been finding ways to get it done. Also last night in the NBA, Golden State takes the lead 3-2. In the Western Conference, the Rockets 131 to 116 last night. Some of these scores in the NBA just blow my mind. 131 points.
Just so competitive.
Minnesota knocks off the Lakers last night, 103 to 96. That means Minnesota wins the series 4-1.
Whoa, I thought
5 games.
I thought Luka was going to take it over the top.
Luka and LeBron go down to
LeBron was
Minnesota
peaking at that
4-1.
early exit.
He was peaking earlier in the series. Tonight you get Knicks
Jordan
Pistons.
never lost in the first round.
Tonight you get Knicks Pistons. Knicks up 3-2 in that series, and you get Denver, LA Clippers. Denver leads that series 3-2. On the ice last night, we decided to watch Washington and Montreal 4-1. The Caps take that one. They win the series 4-1 as well. 2 goals early for the Caps. And one thing that I realized, watching hockey with a 7-year-old and 5-year-old, you have a lot of explaining to do. There's a lot of explanation that's going to need to happen.
It is a lot.
Specifically when a game goes to overtime and having to try and explain that.
Yeah.
So
we had the hockey on last night, and Vince, now our rule is if you want to watch TV during the week, you can, but it's hockey. We're not watching cartoons.
What if he wants to watch NBA?
Well, sports. So hockey only is the only thing you can watch right now, or baseball.
No MLB?
Yeah, baseball and hockey.
Okay.
NBA is a activity right now.
Isn't Conquistador Senior Door soccer happening right now? Can you watch that?
Conquistador Senior Door?
I don't know what it's called. What is it called that's happening right now? La Liga Sasiga? I don't know what it is. One of them is happening right now.
Can confirm. That's accurate. Yes, I believe it's the Champions League.
That one too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Champions
Cup.
Cup.
So I believe you.
I didn't know if you know this, but soccer is the fastest growing sport in the world.
Has been now for 50 plus years.
Yes.
Imagine how big.
Correct. Control the controllables. But what I'm talking about with sports is that Vince last night was watching hockey. And it just so happened in the 15 minutes we watched last night, there were like 3 goals. And he's like, this is the greatest sport of all time.
Yeah, if it was early in that Washington game, because the first 2 goals for Washington came in like the first 3 minutes.
No,
and I was like, guys, just don't get used to this. This does not happen like this.
No, it was the Tampa Bay and Florida game, and it was like 3-2 in the first period.
Yeah.
I was like, buddy, this is not normal. He's like, this is the great. I want to play hockey.
Yeah.
When can you take me ice skating again? I'm like, buddy, it's not usually like this. I wish it was like this all the time, but it's not. So anyways, long story short, man, we had a blast watching hockey last night.
No, they kind of fought it at first, and then they ended up loving it. We were sitting there probably about 10 minutes in, and everybody was quiet. My 5-year-old looks over and he goes, "Hockey rough," and I was like, "Yeah, but it's not. They don't mess around. It is no joke."
No,
but the question similar to like one of the guys knocks the puck down when it's up.
Yeah,
why doesn't he just pick it up and throw it? Like, well, you kind of can't. Why?
Could.
Why?
Frowned upon, but could.
And then I think one of the questions was, does it ever go over, the boards? Yes. Do people get hurt? Yes.
Do people get hurt?
I mean,
some of the overtime are just
stuff,
amazing.
The overtime stuff happened, and I was like, well, they go to sudden death. They go shootout, and they just, they take turns shooting. What if they all just keep making them? And I was like, I don't know what happens then. And apparently
that actually did happen in the Olympics a couple years back.
We asked Alexa, and apparently there was like a 24 overtime game or something this year. That's what Alexa said. I didn't believe it. I was like, I think she's wrong.
I can't speak to whether or not that's true, but I can tell you that there was at one point they did the shootout or whatever, and at TJ Oshie, yeah, and they just kept scoring. They couldn't stop.
But can you imagine seeing that one live? It would have been pretty awesome. I missed that one.
It would have been pretty fun. Yes. And it was gosh, I want to say like 2012 Olympics or 2014 Olympics in Sochi. It was really entertaining. So thoroughly enjoyed it. But hockey is a really good watch for kids, but highly confusing. I will admit that for sure.
It's not easy to explain. 6 OTs, 1936, Detroit and the Montreal Maroons.
The what?
The Montreal Maroons.
The
in the 1936 NHL semifinals.
Huh. I am unfamiliar with their game. Are they good?
Hadn't seen the tape.
You don't say.
Ovechkin does have the most overtime goals in his career.
Can I ask you a question?
By the way, Panthers won that game and they lead the series. They won the series also 4-1.
How much do you think Alexander Ovechkin weighs right now?
I'm going to go 232.
260.
How tall is he?
Like 6'2". Ovi's been eating and drinking, mostly drinking good.
Well, you set that record. I'm sure a lot of folks are willing to step up and purchase a few
So
for
He's
you.
a big light beer fan.
What, like tight end?
He likes light beer and red wine.
Edge rusher? Like, what are we thinking?
I'm thinking like
H-back.
I'm thinking like twitchy 3 technique.
He's the Mason Graham of hockey.
Yeah. Love it.
All right, we got more quarterbacks to discuss. We'll finish Greg's list, but we'll talk to Matt Sims about quarterbacks in the draft next. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Hour number 2 now underway. Going to continue our quarterback conversation, but we'll switch gears just a little bit. Come back to Greg's top 10 college football quarterback list and top quarterbacks that were taken in this year's NFL draft. Talk NFL draft overall with Matt Sims of ESPN here in just a moment. But first, don't forget about Train. You know that weather here in Alabama, unpredictable. That's why you need the reliability of it. Voted America's most trusted HVAC brand. And right now you can receive up to a 10-year warranty on parts and labor on select Train home comfort systems. Find out more at Train.com. It's hard to stop a Train. Matt Sims of ESPN joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline to discuss NFL drafts. And Matt, Cleveland is the team of choice that everybody wants to talk about when referencing quarterbacks in this year's draft. So I'm going to ask you, outside of the Browns and also outside of the Titans who took Cam Ward number 1, was there another quarterback pick that you really liked? Did you feel like just the fit is great, where he's going to be is going to be better than people expect, that came off the board in this year's draft?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. First of all, Cole, Greg, good to be a part of your show. Thank you so much for including me in today's action. You heard my enthusiasm when we did that digital show for ESPN during that day 2 of draft. My excitement for Tyler Shuck and him being drafted to New Orleans Saints. I just can't speak enough, and Greg can also relate to this as well, just how important it is to have an offensive coordinator or a head coach who has played the position at a high level, has been through a lot of different experiences himself as a player and as a coach, and seeing it through the lens of a quarterback. I think Tyler Shuck, the Louisville quarterback, really found an unbelievable home with the New Orleans Saints because he is a talented football player. Everyone's been making a big deal about how old he is. I don't give a damn about that. I think, for you to be successful at the NFL level, if you're a grown man, it just helps you that much more when you're in a room full of other grown men that are making football their lifelong passion and living to feed their family. So Tyler Shuck, Kellen Moore, that marriage, very excited for those two gentlemen.
Yeah, I think Shuck's legit. He was my second favorite quarterback in the draft. I think he can really throw it. Just health is the only fear, but I'll roll the dice at this point. That pick, that value, I'll roll the dice on him staying healthy and hopefully having a nice career. What about Jalen Milroe, who came off the board a little later there in the 3rd round, ends up in Seattle? I don't know how many people in this part of the country have been watching a lot of Seattle Seahawks football, but help me understand what the fit looks like there. I mean, Sam Darnold's going to be the guy, or so it appears. So how does Jalen Milroe fit in there?
Well, it's interesting to me too, right, Greg? When we think about this situation, where does Mike Macdonald come from? Where did he make his home? What did he see, an organization do with Joe Flacco, Lamar Jackson, that situation? He was there, witnessing essentially the process that Harbaugh went through, making Lamar Jackson, who was he's not a quarterback, he's this, he's that. He saw that process and what it looked like and the impact that a quarterback of that skill set has in the NFL, the pressure that it puts on a defense. So I think Mike Macdonald, and that crew, they drafted Jalen Milroe more so like, well, we don't want to defend a football player like this, so let's force other defensive coordinators to defend a quarterback like this. And, there's 2 schools of thought. There is have the starter and then your backup is a carbon copy, somewhat lesser version of the starter. He has the same skill set and all that kind of stuff. Then there's I have my starter, it's Sam Darnold, he's a pocket passer, but then my backup, something completely different, something that defenses have to have a very unique game plan specific for some of the things that we can do offensively with our attacking, with him running the football. So I love this pick. Yes, like you said, Greg, now what does the timetable look like for Sam Darnold? He's really got to perform, I think, pretty well relatively soon now with the Seattle Seahawks offense and Clint Kubiak. But that being said, I think Macdonald, his experience in Baltimore, knowing what it takes to help a quarterback like Lamar Jackson flourish in the NFL level. Jalen Milroe, again, just a super talented quarterback, still available at that time. I think it was just hard for them to move past someone of that talent and skill set, at the most important position in football. Sorry, Cole. The second most important
There you
position
go.
in football.
Now we know. There it is. We look at Cam Ward, and none of us are really going to debate it because there didn't feel like there was much debate or many options of what to do with number one. What did you make of what they did after Cam Ward in this year's draft?
I like it. And really, what I think the biggest thing is just, the skill set and toughness and leadership, right, for Cam Ward going forward. That to me is like his calling card and what he does to a T. And, for big picture wise, do I expect the Tennessee Titans to be in a run to make it to the playoffs and be like one of those high caliber football teams right now? No, I don't. But at the same time, I do think there are enough pieces, adding a guy like Tyler Lockett and Calvin Ridley already to the roster there. I still think Tony Pollard is a very good running back, and I expect him to do more now that a guy like now that a guy like Cam Ward is actually on the roster. We know that the offensive line is talented. It has a lot of good pieces. To the overall just depth and size of the defense, that's one of the big question marks to me. Are we going to see a little bit more just of a tougher defensive front and a stronger, more impactful defensive front? Because that was one thing that I think that popped up last year at times, is just there was too many moments where there was these headaches or snafus on the defensive side of the football, despite having some pretty solid talent. So, overall, I think that Cam Ward is in a good position. He's got good veteran players around him. He's going to have a good arsenal of young football players to kind of bring along as well. But big picture-wise, I think Cam Ward is really going to shock a lot of people with his impact and his ability to play sooner rather than later as far as his toughness and his leadership goes at the NFL level.
Yeah, I love Cam Ward. I think he's going to be great. I hope he's great. But then again, tough situation. I really don't like the situation at all. And maybe it'll work out for him.
What is it about the situation that bothers you, Greg?
Just the inability to develop anybody at that position in quite some time. Tannehill had a brief moment, but that was married up with a great run game. Like, when was the last time the Titans had a quarterback you liked? I literally don't even know. They're like the Browns, except no one makes fun of the Titans because no one thinks about them. Like, they just haven't had anybody.
And really, for the Tannehill thing, I would even say that they got a product, a finished product in a sense. There wasn't much grooming there. He was already a grown man with a ton of experience coming from Miami. So I totally agree with you in that sense.
So,
and
they got to take a young guy and groom him, though. Like, that's my thing, is I just don't know. I don't think it's an ownership thing. I don't know if it's just a weapon thing or what, but it's just hard for me to get confident about a place that hasn't groomed a quarterback in so long.
Yeah, I hear you. And, honestly, it's sad, too, because it just seems like across the league, especially Cleveland being one of them, there's just certain places where it's just too damn hard to really get your quarterback going. And, for Jacksonville, think about them. They haven't been able to solve the quarterback problem since Tom Coughlin and Mark Brunell. That goes back to 98. So, hey, did they have a few moments there with Gerard and others? Absolutely they did, but they're few and far between. And you're right. It kind of just goes to show you just how difficult it is. But I guess it goes back to the fact that I'm just so I'm such a fan of Cam Ward. And Cole heard me say it ad nauseum the other day when we were covering the draft. I was so pissed that we keep overlooking the number one pick as a quarterback, who I think, you could have maybe made a case for him being the number one pick in last year's draft with how good that quarterback class was. Like, that's how special I think Cam Ward is and what he brings to the table. But maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I haven't been doing this long enough, and I don't know a damn thing. But that's quite possible.
Matt Sims joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline talking NFL draft. Give us a draft that sticks out to you that you feel like was a win, pluses across the board that maybe you don't think enough people are talking about, that they set themselves up for more success in the next year or two based on what they did in this year's draft.
Man, this is like, I'm not going to be a fan with a lot of people by saying this, but like, how can you not be excited for the Cleveland Browns? I'm serious. I'm serious. This is the first time in a while that they're actually saying we're going to bring a lot of QBs in to compete and we're going to see what the hell sticks. And I don't know what is going to stick. I know one thing, it's going to be a fantastic dumpster fire. At one side, it's going to be really horrific. At the other side, I'm going to keep looking because I can't stop. And then, the other part of it, Mason Graham, Carson Schlesinger, Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson, my boy from Tennessee. Who else too? Harold Fanning Jr. I mean, that's a damn good crew of football players that I think Kevin Stefanski can really dial up some fantastic concepts, passing the ball, running the football, being physical in the run game. And that's the thing that my father has always preached to me too. He's like, son, you need people that kind of match the philosophy and style and just how the city is. And I think that is true. And I said, hey, big guy, how does that make any sense? You're from Morehead State and you got drafted by the New York Giants. Explain that one to me. But, still at the same time, the running backs, like, that is a great thunder and lightning type of punch. Harold Fanning is really going to be a really dangerous person in 12 personnel, in the slot versus small linebacker, speedy nickels, all that. He's going to have that size advantage in multiple situations that way. So I really am excited. And Mason Graham with Myles Garrett, I mean, come on, Cole. I mean, you know it. How fun is it going to be to have, what are we going to do? We're going to fan over here, or we're going to loo it over here? What are we going to do over here to protect these two dogs over here on the outside and not leave our guard and tackle in one-on-one situations versus absolute game wreckers? So I think as far as scheme and coaching-wise, that group did a really good job. Maybe despite the added drama of Shedeur Sanders late in the draft process. What do
you make? I mean, you grew up in a football family. I mean, your brother played, you played, your dad played. Like you get it. How exactly would you describe the circumstances surrounding Shedeur Sanders' evaluation? Because I do think that there are people that just aren't going to like Shedeur's dad, and that's going to have an impact on how they evaluate Shedeur. I don't think it's necessarily fair, but hey, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Like Deion is a lightning rod for positivity or criticism, depending on the day. And I do think sometimes when you fly close to the sun like that, it can hurt you some. So, how do you think Deion's presence impacted the evaluation of Shedeur for the negative?
Yeah, it's interesting, and definitely have thought about this on a few different occasions now, just with covering the situation. And it's really the first time that I think Deion has stubbed his toe as far as this process goes. Because if you really think about it, the dude has been in an absolute he's been crushing it. I mean, he really has. I mean, he's been an absolute heater for the past 2.5 years. And I think this was the first time that whatever advice he gave Shedeur and Shiloh as far as how to handle the situation, how to manage the interview process, unfortunately, I think he came up a little short in that department. And, he didn't realize, I think, in his advice to his son, Shedeur especially, that just the interview process for the quarterback position, it can't be handled like Deion Sanders' primetime cornerback coming out of the NFL draft. Corners, like, hey, they're like their own entity in the locker room, right? They're a specific type of person, right? Receivers, all that. We all get stereotyped in our position. And I think they lost sight of the fact that, like, yeah, you're a quarterback. There's a lot of people that rely on you. There's a lot of people that you have to interact with and have conversations with daily, right? There's a lot of people, too, that you have to really make sure that you calm and cool their heads because they're the ones that are under a ton of pressure, and you got to be the one to reassure them, like, hey, we're doing the work. I'm doing everything we need to. I'm motivating the football team. I'm staying on track. I'm disciplined. I'm focused with everything that we do. And I think there was just too many moments in this draft process where Shedeur did not come across well or the way that he intended with confidence and being that alpha male type of personality. And I think that really turned off a lot of teams. And as teams continued to talk to each other about how the process is going, those things started to snowball, I think, in a negative effect for Shedeur. And that's why we heard here later on in the process where certain teams didn't even have him on the board at all because of the way that he carried himself. So it's a good reminder, I think, for all the young quarterbacks out there, the young quarterback fathers out there, that, you can be a baller. There's no doubt about it.
but as a quarterback, there's way more that goes on between the ears and on the sidelines and even in the building as far as how we carry ourselves and how we approach our work and how we treat others on a consistent basis. And listen, it's a good life lesson for Shedeur. I know that he'll learn it because he's proven the fact that he can adjust and learn and adapt to certain situations. Unfortunately for him, it just severely affected his draft stock, and that's unfortunate.
Matt, I want to stay with that team quickly because you've said that you like their draft, and obviously we're talking about quarterbacks now. It's been 80-something hours. Has the Dylan Gabriel selection made any more sense to you since you've been able to digest it a little bit more?
Dude, Cole, what do you mean? I was the only one during our show where I was like, I like this pick. I really do. I like Dylan Gabriel a lot. I really do. I mean, when you watch the film of Dylan Gabriel, what's not to like? And I made this comparison too. Like, well, Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa, who else? Bryce Young. All these other guys are about the damn near the same height as Dylan Gabriel. And you know what? I actually think that Dylan Gabriel, as far as a passer and decision maker, is a better football player than all three of those guys. And that's what I saw in the film. I think he's got a stronger arm, really, than two of them. I would say Kyler has a little bit stronger of arm. But honestly, that might be even closer now than it's ever been. I think Dylan, with his experience, you can't have more than 60 college starts and throw for 150 touchdowns and not know what the hell you're doing, and do it at 3 different locations and be essentially the leader of your football team. I'm telling you right now, I would not be shocked if Dylan Gabriel is the one that comes out of this race in the quarterback thing at the end of the year. And you're like, shit, Dylan Gabriel might be the best quarterback on the Browns roster. It would not shock me if that is the case.
There you go. Matt, great stuff, man. Thanks for hopping on with us. Enjoyed working with you up in Bristol and look forward to having you back again.
Cole, you shocked that I doubled down on Dylan Gabriel?
No.
Were you expecting me to flip it?
No, just I was hoping you would say what you said. And it doesn't need to be made more sense of because you're a fan of the pick. So there you go.
There you go. Hey, my man. That's what I'm talking about.
We'll catch up soon, Matt. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care. Good
Matt.
hearing you, Greg. You're the man.
See you, brother.
Keep doing your thing, bro.
Thanks, brother. Good to talk to you.
All right, there we go. Matt Sims joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. Former Tennessee quarterback Matt Sims played in the NFL, joining us on that Higginbotham Hotline to discuss the NFL draft. Quarterbacks that will be drafted soon. Still on Greg McElroy's list of top 10 quarterbacks that we'll get to later this hour. When we come back, going to talk a little bit of the Kentucky Spring. There's a quarterback situation there that people have questions about. Nick Rouse of KSR going to be with us after this to break it all down on Jocks 94.5. All right, going to talk Greg's top 10 quarterbacks again here in just a moment. 800-239-9569. You want to get in, talk college quarterbacks this year, talk quarterbacks that were just drafted. We can do that. 800-239-9569. Text in 205-834-9450. That gets you on the Higginbotham hotline, either calling or texting in. You can tweet in at Mac and Cube. Chris in Birmingham wants to talk NFL draft. Chris, what's on your mind today, man? Chris.
Can you guys hear me?
Got you now.
Got you,
yeah, go
brother.
ahead. Sorry.
Yes, sir, man. How are y'all this morning?
Doing well. Thank
Good,
you.
man.
Excellent. Man, I just wanted to say it's kind of difficult for me not difficult for me, but I'm having a hard time seeing what you guys are seeing when we have seen rookie quarterbacks play phenomenal in the last couple of years. C.J. Stroud, his sophomore year wasn't as strong,
Yep.
it's
Sure.
second year, but Jaden Daniels, outstanding rookie
Unbelievable.
year.
Incredible.
And so I don't understand the assessment on Cam having a difficult time, and maybe the culture of the quarterback of the spirit of Steve McNair will come back for Cam. When I saw a graphic of him in the uniform, that's who I immediately thought of. It looked like an Oilers uniform. Actually, it looked more like Warren Moon. And
Oh, then just go to the press conference. You'll see Warren bringing his jersey in there for him, telling him he can wear number 1.
Oh, yeah.
Man, is that not inspiring? You know what I mean? Like,
we have been overly. I am, no pun intended, over the moon on Cam Ward. The personality,
Indeed.
the demeanor, the individual, the ability. I do think some of the risk taking stuff is going to have to get under control, because I think the turnovers will come a little bit easier in the NFL than they did in college. But he's got everything it takes to be a star, and more of that for me is mental and emotional than it is actually in his arm.
Right.
I think the two things where Greg's going, number one, just go through the history of that franchise with younger quarterbacks. It just has not gone well for a very long time. And then look at the cast. It's not a great cast when you think about, is he going to be able to go out there and put up big numbers? So I think those are the two things that kind of both of us are leaning on to say it might not go great year one right out of the gate.
Yeah.
But if you're just talking about the guy, I have all the confidence in him. Now, I think probably the flip side of what I'm saying would have been Washington last year. We didn't look at their skill position and say, oh, well, Jaden's got it made. None of us said
absolutely.
that. So
absolutely.
My thing is more the organization. Like, what did they do with Marcus Mariota? It wasn't good, right? I mean, it was good for a year, and then it fell off. They got Tannehill, who was on his second chance, right? And they married it up with a really good run game, which was extremely beneficial. What did they do with Jake Locker? It was terrible, was it not? What did they do with Vince Young? How did that go? Like, this is a group that hasn't developed a quarterback since Steve McNair, and he retired 20 years ago, or he left the Titans 20 years ago. So I think that's my challenge, is that while I have faith in the skill set of Cam Ward, it doesn't have as much to do with Cam Ward. It has more to do with the franchise's inability to get anything out of their young quarterbacks for 2 decades. And that's a concern for me, because I think Mariota had talent. I think Jake Locker had talent. I think Vince Young had a ridiculous amount of talent. And it was not necessarily about the organization as much as it was about Vince Young's immaturity. But still, I mean, it's been 4 or 5 quarterbacks in a row that they've taken that have failed. That is of concern to me.
Okay. Appreciate the call. And we will go now to Nick Rouse of KSR joining us on the Higginbotham hotline. Wanted to squeeze one in before Nick joined us. Nick covers the Kentucky Wildcats. And Nick, we don't know a lot about how this spring went. There wasn't a spring game for us to watch, to see, to even really get an idea of where some of these new pieces are going to fit, how they're going to fit, what they're going to look like. Let's start with quarterback, because we have seen Zach Calzada play in the SEC before. What do you gather? What did you see? What did you hear? What are your impressions of the Kentucky quarterback situation coming out of spring football?
Overall, Zach Calzada, I think from a physical standpoint, I think you kind of know what you're going to get. I mean, he was touted as a guy who had a big arm early on, but I think where he's going to help this team more so than anything is from an intangibles perspective. This is a very old guy. He's a seventh-year college football player. He's been through a lot of different offenses, and he's getting his final shot. And so his receiver talent around him, I think, is a bit concerning. That's going to be the talking point going into this fall season. Like, does he have enough guys to even throw the ball to? But I do think just from what the program needed from that position, they went back-to-back years with guys who were inexperienced in the SEC, who didn't necessarily command the offensive locker room. You're getting that right off the jump from Calzada, who might have to ad-lib to make some things happen for this offense to be able to keep the sticks alive. But I do think it's down there in him. It's just a matter of, does he have enough explosive playmakers to get it done? And Kendrick Law certainly looks that part, but you need more than two reliable pass catchers to have an effective SEC offense.
I really am struggling to figure out how they're going to attack people. I really am having a hard time there. I like Calzada. I think he can throw it. I think he's got some upside. I think he's got a nice arm. But I'm concerned about the supporting cast very much so, like you just referenced. And I'm trying to figure out, like, how do you think when we go back and we're sitting here, let's say we fast forward to December, how did this Kentucky team attack people? What's going to be their identity?
Run the damn ball. Run the damn ball. It feels like a very hard reset from a roster construction perspective back to the early Mark Stoops years back in like 2016, 17, when they got a big offensive line that they're confident running behind, especially a guard, center guard. And the most positive, encouraging development for me in the spring, albeit one that I'm a little bit like I kind of want to wait and see it, is Jagger Burton was this prolific recruiting win from Lexington who got thrown in the fire too early. I don't think he really connected that well with Eric Wolford, but it seems like everything's clicked. He put on probably a good 40 pounds. He's enormous now, playing center. And their interior offensive line is good. It will be the strength of the offense. They've got quality pass protectors at offensive tackle. The road grading, we'll see. And they also got a couple of talented running backs. Seth McGowan was their big transfer portal addition, started his career at Oklahoma, got into some trouble, took a year or two off, but had some big play pop last year at New Mexico. And then the other running back, Dante Dowdell, it's you know what it's like, guys. When you're not tackling in spring, it's hard for me to judge a running back. But this guy was the best short yardage running back in the Big Ten last year, led the Big Ten in rushing touchdowns for Nebraska. So they've got a short yardage back. They've got a couple of running backs who can catch well out of the backfield. They're going to rely on those running backs. They need them to be outstanding. And that's another one of the questions you have is, in those early Mark Stoops days, Boone Williams and Benny Snell could rattle off 1,000 yards. Those were guys who were NFL draft picks. Can these guys be NFL draft picks? Are they good enough? If they are, then maybe there is a way where you do have a successful reset. If not, they're going to have to win games in slobber knockers. And defensively, it's another big sort of roster turnover. So, there's a lot of questions about this team that went 4-8, and there's a lot of pressure on Mark Stoops to perform right away.
Nick Rouse of Kentucky Sports Radio joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. And Nick, there has been, I don't want to say in abundance, but a pretty good amount of talented skill in Lexington the last couple of years. However, it hasn't really lived up to the expectation. A couple of super talented receivers are gone, but we know the letdown of those guys the last couple of years as well. Because could it end up being a net positive to get a couple of guys who didn't really live up to the expectation or only briefly flashed at wide receiver for Kentucky the last couple of years?
Certainly, Cole. And the wildest stuff that you hear, they kind of keep things buttoned up when things are going wrong at the time. But afterwards, you can tell that things were as bad as they were. Long story short, they had severe culture problems, like guys who didn't want to show up to stuff, guys who didn't want to compete, who just didn't want to be there, and it's one of those things where so much of Mark Stoops, his success was built on having great culture guys who go to work, who bust their ass every single day. And they said, you know what, to get to the next level, we need to get a next level athlete, and they lost that culture in the process. This is a motley crew of a bunch of lower level guys. Stoops used to rule out in the transfer portal on all right, he was a 4-star that went to Alabama and didn't play. Let's get him. They got one of them. I mentioned already in Kendrick Law. But for the most part, these are guys who were all-conference players at the G5 level. I want to say like 8 of their 20 additions were all-conference players, and a lot of those were on the offensive line. So I do think from at least the outside looking in, you could count on Kentucky to play a certain way for the longest time. Last year, they just quit tackling, man. They quit blocking. They quit tackling. Jarquez Hunter, I think, still just ran for another first down at Kroger Field. They did not play Mark Stoops football at all last year. I think you are going to get a lot of that back, and that was really the big focus this spring. We're not going to take any days off. We're going to use all 15 practices. We're not going to tackle in front of the fans because, that would be doing too much, but we will do some blocking and tackling in practice to keep things low-key. They did have a very low-profile spring, but ultimately I think the main goal, the big intangible goal this offseason, it's moving in the right direction. Now it's just, are these guys still good enough caliber athletes to be difference makers in the SEC?
So they're going to be a kind of a group that wants to have a bare knuckle brawl. And I respect that. I feel like that aligns with their head coach's personality. But does that align with the modern day player is what I'm a little bit concerned about. I just don't think there's as many of those guys anymore as there once was. And that's okay. Because you got to have a couple Ferraris in the garage too. A bunch of pickup trucks are excellent. But if it becomes a track meet, I don't know if I want my GMC Sierra going up against something that could top out at 150 miles an hour. So do you think they'll have enough athleticism across the board to be able to make up that gap?
Defensively, I got a sneaky suspicion that their secondary is going to be able to hold their own. And they got some good athletes in the trenches on the defensive line. There for a while, Kentucky was building a Georgia Light where they just got these big uglies that are just going to just clog up running lanes and force you to move the ball down the field through the air. But they got some agile guys. Marquise Grace Humphrey, he was Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year and All-American, who had 17.5 tackles for loss and 10 sacks a year ago. He's going to be playing a 5 technique. They haven't had really a guy like him. I mean, Josh Pascal was close, but this guy's got some explosiveness. David Gooster from Washington State. This dude wears number 60. He plays nose. Like, compared to Deion Walker, he looks a foot shorter. And you're like, how is this guy going to be able to two-gap in the SEC? Well, he doesn't. He gets his shoulder low. He's explosive in gaps. So I do think they have, particularly on defense, they've got some good athletes. Teron Nichols is a shutdown SEC cornerback that I think can step in where Maxwell Harrison left a big absence after being picked in the first round of the draft. Linebacker, they're thin there. They're not very experienced. They're going to rely a lot on Alex Afari to take a big jump forward in year 2 at that position. That is the clear weakness on the defensive side of the ball. Because if you're going to slow down a Ferrari, you got to be able to take some air out of the tires. And that was their big issue last year. In that Ole Miss game, they were able to slow down Lane Kiffin's octane offense. They made Carson Beck look really bad in that Georgia game. Should have won that bare knuckle brawl. But by the end of the year, when the Texases of the world came rolling around, they had no answers defensively, and the offense couldn't keep up. Needless to say, I think most of us are worried about that $40 million Texas football roster. But I think the way this defense is built, they should be able to drag some of these teams down in the mud. But I'm just going to not be able to answer questions about these offensive skill players until we see it. Because, like you said, I thought they had the answers. Barian Brown looks like an answer. He'll probably end up being an answer for LSU, just like Dane Key was a solid player, and he'll be a great player this year for Nebraska. They haven't been able to find the right recipe. And really, a lot of it's just, Bush Hamden, you wouldn't pick this roster. You're the second-year guy. Go do it, man. If this play caller doesn't work for Mark Stoops, I don't know how much longer Mark Stoops is going to work for Kentucky.
It's going to be interesting, and the part that I wanted to follow up with is what you said about the defense and the lack of tackling late. That hasn't happened, and a lot of that has been because of Brad White and how great he's been. Do you have concerns that they can get back to the quality Kentucky defenses that we've seen the last 4 or 5 years, and not even based just on personnel, but attitude and will and want to? I mean, they haven't always had a bunch of Josh Allens out there, but they've gotten the job done a lot of times. Is there a concern that they just can't get back to that?
I do generally have some faith in Brad White, and a lot of it you saw in that Tennessee game where, I mean, Kentucky's driving down one score in the 40. Gavin Wimsatt has to enter the game. They call an RPO, say don't pass the ball. He throws a pick six, game over. So they were in that game because the defense responded, and Brad had a very impassioned plea after the game where I think he got his guys' attention, at least to respond there, because in his words, football is about life and life is about adversity. If you don't respond to the football field now, what are you going to do when something really matters in real life? So I think he's going to be able to connect with this group enough, and their front four and their corners, I'm really confident in. I think they're going to be more explosive. But there is just general, they got some linebackers who are inexperienced, a little light in the shorts. So there might be some games where they take they don't get their head on the right side of the tackler and things start going awry. I thought they might address safety from a personnel, but just from an overall scheme perspective, I think some things might have gotten figured out briefly, but all in all, I trust Brad White to get them on the right page, even if they are a little shorthanded in some aspects.
We appreciate the time today, Nick. Thanks for helping us break down the Kentucky Spring, and we look forward to having you back again soon. Do you want to give us your Kentucky Derby bet right now?
Oh, would love to. It's I'm at the track right now. It's my fifth time in 7 days. Got 2 more days to go. Best time of the year. The favorites are probably going to romp in the Oaks and the Derby. Good cheer and journalism. Final Gambit, though. Final Gambit closed hard in the Jeff Ruby Stakes of a Turfway Park. Fastest final furlong. Final Gambit's going to be a long shot. That's going to be closing hard on the first Saturday in May. Most wonderful time of the year. I hope y'all can scratch a little bit of that gambling itch and pet the ponies this weekend, fellas.
Is the Jeff Ruby race a real thing?
Is it going to be a muddy track?
Oh. So they actually, it's called a stakes race, and Jeff Ruby changes the spelling to make it like the steaks you eat. Yeah, that's a real race. The Jeff Ruby Stakes that Final Gambit won, and it might be muddy. They've called for rain every day out here, and I think it's rained 10 minutes, so it might be a little bit muddy.
Are you at the track right now?
Yeah, I can see a horse 10 feet from me, galloping around.
9:39
near the rail.
Go. Okay, no,
yeah, we got out here at 6:30. It's the best time of the year. It's fun. If it is a little sloppy, we'll play in the mud. Nothing ever stopped me from having a good time.
Masters or Derby?
Oh, Derby.
Christmas or Derby?
This is my Super Bowl. Derby.
Thanksgiving or Derby?
Derby. I haven't been able to
Kentucky,
sleep for
Tennessee
weeks,
football or Derby?
Oh, Tennessee's nightmare field for me. Give me Derby.
Kentucky, Louisville basketball or Derby?
I'm still taking Derby. Still taking Derby, guys.
Bourbon or Derby?
It's my Super Bowl. We'll do Oaks. We can get after it a little bit more.
People say the Oaks is better than the Derby.
I think I've won a lot more money betting on the Oaks, so I'm a little biased. But it's not as congested and not as maybe as stuffy. I'm able usually to sneak in a lot more beers on Oaks Day.
A week of shows without Matt Jones or the Derby?
Oh, I'll do the Derby. Just what it really trumps all. I think I would only maybe if the Kentucky beating Tennessee, that would that's I've never seen it on Rocky Top. They only did it at during the COVID year when nobody came. So if I was at Neyland to watch Kentucky beat Tennessee, that might trump Derby. But that's about it.
You can have the old oaken beer barrel in your possession or the Derby.
Yeah, just okay. I'll take the old oaken. Yeah, that's you found my one. You found my one because I'm gonna put some straps on that thing and walk around with that beer barrel like it's my backpack.
Serious question though, for folks kind of like me that might go to a Derby party every now and then. That's the only time they pay attention to this thing. Like, how do you bet on horse racing? Like, how do you even know what to, other than the odds? Like, is it just a feel? Or are you so ingrained in like the minor leagues of horse racing that you've seen these fillies grow up and you know what they're going to be like? Are you basically like the Steve Wiltfong of horses? Like, you've been watching them and like what star they're going to be, like, and you're putting projections on them. How do you know?
So, all right, I will do that for the Derby because it's the biggest race of the year, and so we have our own fantasy Derby league where we watch all of the prep races. They have a circuit where you can watch all of the prep races. But for the most part, it's real money. I've won it our first year doing it, so I'm a champion amongst my friends. They have to respect me.
Self-proclaimed.
But for the most part, like I'm not too different than any other Johnny who's picking up a program for the first time. I think the thing that got me as hooked as anything is the $1 exacta box bet. You pick 3 horses to come in first or second, and it only costs you $6. So that's just a good way where if you hit one, it could pay from $25 to $40, and you feel like you know everything. I like to bet trainers like Brad Cox. I'm a big fan of his horses. Graham Motion has turf horses that I love. One of them paid 47 to 1 last year for me on Derby Day, so I had one heck of a Derby. And they also will show in the programs where like the horse's speed figure, just like, hey, was it fast in this race? It gives you a decent idea. If you want to, I have a 10-minute video that I put on the Kentucky Sports Radio YouTube channel. Just like, here are 2 things to look at in a program. We're not going to make it rocket science because a lot of it's just dumb luck, guys. If there's a Baldy horse racing, a horse named Baldy Football, you got to bet it, Cole. 3 Technique was out here. You bet your sweet ass I was betting 3 Technique. The names.
I was about to ask you, greatest horse name of all time. That one actually right there has to be in the running, I would imagine.
One year it was a downpour, and I tried to be Johnny Handicapper and like pick all the races like I'm some expert. Lost every single bet. I only had like $20 left on my account, and it was pouring. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to bet this long shot Funny Duck. If any horse can win in this downpour, it's a duck horse. And what do you know? The duck horse wins, and I came out with like $115. So like it's better to be lucky than good, especially when it comes to horse racing. So hopefully y'all can just have a good time. It's not for everybody, but it's the one day of the year we can all sit back and scream at a bunch of ponies and tell them to get up the road and hit that wire first.
Because nothing says awesome event like 14 hours of pre-event coverage.
If it doesn't have at least 12 and a half hours, not important.
Sign me up. Nick, great stuff, man. Thanks for hopping in. We appreciate the time today.
Thanks, guys.
Go gamble. There you go. Maybe, possibly, I'm going to say definitely, the most degenerate 3 minutes of this radio show's existence right there. On how to, why, and the nonsensical nature of Nick Rouse betting on horses. We'll be back with more after this. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Going back to Greg McElroy's top 10 quarterbacks entering this season list. We will take a further look at that now and continue that conversation into next hour. Want to know also from you guys who should be on it now and who you think will be on it towards the end of the season that is not on it now when referencing the top 10 quarterbacks heading into this season per our very own Greg McElroy. Now, we have given you the top few. Cade Klubnik 1, John Mateer 2, Sam Levitt, Arizona State 3. Greg, what were the qualifications for Levitt to be able to be this high on your list?
I love him. The more I went back and watched him, the more I appreciated. And honestly, the gap between him and Mateer is not very big. Like Levitt is and y'all are listening to a radio show that really, I feel like, does a pretty good job of trying to dial in and trying to find the next guy. Like Cole's been talking about Armand Membu for 2 years.
3, but it's okay.
I only listened to you for 2.
Got it. Noted.
You had to prove it to me. It took you several years to just prove that you knew what you were talking about. But you've been talking about Armand Membu for how many years now? And he goes to 7 overall. I feel like we told you about Zach Wilson for years and told you how good I thought he was. And I know it didn't work out in the NFL. I get that. But gosh, he was a great college football player. There have been a handful of guys that we've loved and then have kind of we told you about Cam Ward, and how much we liked him and you kind of find the next guy. I think this is the next guy. I think we're going to fast forward to next year and you're going to be like, wow, like I can't believe I wasn't a believer. This guy can run. He can throw. He's accurate as can be. He didn't have a ridiculously good supporting cast, especially when his top receiver went down. I think Scadaboo's a fine player. I think he was a fine player, but Levitt is the guy that made that thing go last year. He's crafty. He can move. He's got athleticism. He's got some moxie. He's tough as nails. I think he's pretty accurate with the football. I think the ball jumps, got a short, quick release. I think this guy's got legitimate first-round potential. I'm just a huge believer. He's just does some things that you just can't coach. He also, the better the team, the better the competition, the more he elevates. Like he elevates his play. And if you look at the game against, that's a dang good defense he was playing in Texas.
Yes.
And he carved him up pretty dang good, man. Without his top receiver, Jordan Tyson.
Yep.
I think this kid, we're going to fast forward to season's end. You're going to be like, wow, all right, I see it now. They didn't see it at first, but they see it now.
He feels a little more traditional than Mateer, but still has that ability to sort of ad-lib, move around, make things happen. It follows up with what we said about Mateer. Unfortunate that people just kind of didn't see him. But not only didn't see him, then went to watch somebody else on his team when they did go see him. And that was obviously Scadaboo for good reason. And he was kind of one of those college football folk heroes that we talk about that just seems larger than life. And he was a fun player. There's no doubt. But Sam made a lot of that go. And sure, there were times that he didn't have to carry as heavy a load as maybe the running game did because of the offensive line, because of the running back. But when they needed plays, he made them in big, big moments down the stretch for that team. I'm with you. I think he's got a chance to have a huge year. I love his game. And I have no problem with him being as high on your list as apparently some other people do. If retirement is not on your list and you are within 10 years of it, it probably should be. So we'll add some value here on Jocks. I'll introduce you to our friend and wealth advisor, Tad Hill, your trusted retirement planning partner. Tad is the co-host of the Retire with Freedom radio and TV shows in Birmingham and Huntsville. Also designated by Forbes as the #1 financial securities professional in the state of Alabama multiple years running. Tad, what do you have for us today?
Thanks, Cole. What I want to do today is talk about the foundation of retirement planning, which is income planning. And what income planning boils down to is how are you going to replace the income that you need in retirement once your paychecks stop? First, we have to figure out exactly how much are you going to need from your savings and investments. We need to start with how much is going out the door, and then exactly what can you expect from sources of income like Social Security and pension. And then the conversation shifts to what are the strategies that you can employ to ensure that you don't run out of income in retirement. All of these are things that we cover in detail in our Retire with Freedom course that we teach in our office on Valleydale Road. If you would like to get signed up for that, text JOX, J-O-X, to 205-988-0006. That's 988-0006.
This is a paid placement. Investment advisory services are made available through AE Wealth Management. For more information about Forbes rankings, visit Forbes.com.
All right, we'll continue talking Greg McElroy's top 10 quarterbacks returning to college football this season on the other side. Still a lot to get to on the show, but I'll tell you about Gusty Goulas and the Gusty Goulas Group quickly. If you need a new home in Central Alabama, call 205-542-1996. Why? Well, Gusty Goulas has served more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. They know what real estate's coming available. They know what yours should go for. Over 855-star Google reviews brokered by eXp Realty. Just Google Gusty Goulas Group for yourself and see what people are saying. Go to GustyGoulasGroup.com. That's GustyGoulasGroup.com or call 205-542-1996 for all of your real estate needs here in Central Alabama. More on Greg's top 10 quarterbacks returning to college football. We will go through the transfer portal in the last few days of what's been happening because there is a ton of movement and will be some different faces in different places that could impact a lot of things this upcoming season. So we still have a lot to get to here on the show. There's a college coach that continues to stay in the news. Maybe we discuss him. And maybe we go through a couple of different players that we feel like out of the SEC will end up in next year's NFL draft in the first round. All that and more coming up right here on JOX 94.5. E. Robinson tweeting into the show. At Mac and Cube, if you want to be a part, 800-239-9569. If you were a racehorse, what would your name be? I think mine would be Not What I Used to Be. Also, wasn't E. Robinson recently named a head coach?
Harrington Christian Academy in Bessemer? Yeah.
Congratulations, E. Robinson. And of course, our very own Damian Mitchell labels himself Lil Legend, emoji horse.
Lil Legend?
Is the emoji horse part?
Lil Legend emoji horse. He asked
That's part of the name, right?
And the emoji's in there, so.
Little Legend emoji?
Yeah.
Mine be Gumption Daddy.
I don't know if that's good or bad. It feels good. It feels catchy. What makes a good horse name? Just the fact that it makes you think twice about it, or just that it's memorable?
Memorable
and kind of dumb.
By the way, the fact that Nick Rouse found a horse named 3 technique, I'm in on that.
A little slow out of the gate. Bad first step.
Good lateral quickness, though. He can bump the other horses into the rail.
Just a bull in a china shop.
Board checker.
I don't know.
I watched too much hockey last night.
Maybe that's it. Gumption. Someone who possesses gumption is a self-starter and has the nerve and motivation to succeed.
Yeah, I've read the John Cena Monster Truck book or whatever that is.
I'm definitely going Gumption Daddy.
Whole thing's about gumption. I'm
With
like, they're
the gum
4
part?
and 5. They don't know what gumption is. Like, it's not a word they use. Why we write a whole book about it?
Would the gump part be capitalized?
Stop.
Typical John Cena.
Don't you start. Don't you even.
Or at least being crimson and the rest be like in white or something like that?
My colors would definitely be crimson and white.
Okay.
Not because
Why would that
that's
not
like
be the name of your horse then? My colors are definitely crimson and white.
these colors don't run. That's my backup horse name.
Not many people would wager on you then.
These colors sprint.
I don't know. There are some good ones out there though. I don't know if you're going best name in the Derby this year. Do you have a direction that you would go? Journalism,
Dumb.
Sandman, Luxor Cafe. I mean, if you own a business, would you not just name the horse something along the lines with your business? Just free marketing?
NIL.
I mean, imagine if you named your horse Butterfinger and it won the Kentucky Derby.
That's right there.
The free marketing that comes along with that.
I got mine.
Rodriguez,
What you got?
Beza, American Promise, Citizen Bull, East Avenue, Final Gambit, Tiz Lastic, Grande, Coal Battle.
And we know who you're betting on.
We know Kentucky's coal country.
COAL.
Built on it.
Oh, that one.
Publisher, Admire Daytona. Flying Mohawk.
That one.
Flying Mohawk or Mohawk Warrior? Which one you taking?
Are they both racing?
If they're racing each other, I'd take Mohawk Warrior. Even though it's an awful monster truck, I'd still take it. Chunk of Gold. It's not bad. Owen Almighty. Render Judgment.
Ooh, I like that one.
How would you pronounce Neoequus?
NEO.
EQUOS. Neoequus? Neoequus. Neoequa.
What if they're like trolling us? That's like a huge cuss word, a highly inappropriate word.
They got it out
in like a different language.
Neoequa. And Neoequa around the right corner. Go to this way.
What if it's like, I don't even know. I'd probably go another good nickname for a horse would be Kick Rocks.
It's good. I like that actually.
Mine's Naysayer, spelled Neigh.
That's actually good. I like that.
Thought you'd like it.
That is a good one.
Somebody said hooves in the doit.
No, I like that one too. Just in the D. DWT. There's been some good ones over the years. I mean, I don't know what the best horse names all time have been. I don't know if there's certain ones that stick out, certain ones that you look at and say, Spy a Star. Stalled feels like a bad horse name. Stealing gasoline is actually really good.
Stealing gasoline.
That's a good one. Burrito. Adopt me.
Pony Soprano.
Fluffy socks. I like that one too. That's good.
Pony Soprano.
That's a good one. I like that one a lot.
Hello America. Hurricane Bernie.
Gosh, some of these are so dumb.
Life in Shambles. Misandry Mermaid. Night Owl. Nile High Club.
Ooh,
I like that.
that one makes sense.
Orb of the Borough. Overdrawn. Pardon the pun. Skywarn. Social Network. Sonnet Boom. Storm Temple Pilot. Arson Annie. Armored Car. Call AAA. Y'all let me know when we get to a good one here.
Still waiting.
J Jet. Jukebox Money.
Ooh, I like Jukebox Money.
Jukebox Money.
Skew. Nope.
Nope is the name?
Nope is the name. Thunder Down Under.
You saying Colt?
It's really good. Are you coming up with these or are you finding these?
The first few of mine, I'm having fun now.
Wile E. Peyote?
That's awkward.
Yeah, that's
A little bit. Waddle? If Jalen was part owner of that horse, that'd be amazing. Tiny Danza. Sponsored.
Mine would be full Cubelic.
Full. That's good, actually. I like it. Who sent you that?
Nobody, but it said foals can walk and run within a few hours of birth. I'm just looking up horse fun facts. Full Cubelic works.
Fun facts. I like that. Okay.
Oh, there's going to be a few more.
It got Sir Trots a lot.
Hoof-hearted. Bourbonic. Red hot Philly pepper.
I like that.
That's a good one.
I like that.
Darth Vader. Refrigerator.
I got one for you. On the hoof. Not a bad one.
Nope. Honey Rider.
No.
Turco Bravo.
Nah.
Fuzzy Bottom.
Nope.
Okay. That's all I got. There was apparently a race dog named Drink Till She's Cute.
If I wanted to risk my job, I'd
I'm
say
about
a
to say I'm
B-word
not saying
joke, but
anything.
I'm not gonna do that.
Don't do it.
There you go.
I mean, some of the stuff is hilarious on here. Like I typed in, what do horses do?
Get straight to it.
And I mean, some of the stuff is just hilarious. How old is a 27-year-old horse in human years?
Okay, I'm waiting.
78.
Oh, wow.
Why 27?
You thought hockey was a tough conversation? Try to explain dog years to your kids.
The oldest
That's
horse.
one that I just gave up on.
The
After
oldest,
about 5 questions, I said, you know what? Not today.
the oldest horse on record was Old Billy,
Yeah, he
a
was.
Shire stallion that lived to be 62 years old. He lived from 1760 to 1822.
When he ran, was he young Billy? And then they just started calling him Old Billy later?
His head is taxidermied.
Stop it.
Yeah, at the Bedford Museum.
At the
Quinn Ewers Museum?
Quinn Ewers Family Ranch in,
Yeah.
where was that? Chico, Texas?
Chico.
Quinn's grandfather took him down in 1822.
Wait, I'll do it for you.
So when that horse was younger, it was Baby Billy?
Yes,
Baby Billy.
correct. Yep.
The Quinn's family members like go to the track and say, wait, I got it. Don't do that. Just so they can mount it,
So they made their own glue at the Ewers
I
household?
guess.
What do horses do for fun?
I've still never researched how that works,
That's
by
right.
the way.
You've
don't know.
probably heard the term
I don't.
horseplay from time to time.
Have I?
Wow. They play tag and follow the leader.
Really?
Yeah.
Who would have
It
known?
was referenced more grab ass when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Horseplay, but yeah, either one.
They have object play. When they aren't busy playing games with each other, horses may turn to objects for quick play. Golly, who wrote this?
Dr. Ruth sounds like.
I think my son could have written this. He's in kindergarten. They play tug of war. Wow.
What?
Yeah.
They probably lose teeth when they do it too.
Ugh.
That'd hurt.
As adults, play becomes more of a recreational behavior for horses.
That sounds familiar.
Getting up in age.
Yeah.
The simple act provides mental stimulation, which releases all those feel-good endorphins.
Yeah, it does. Do we think horses like to run?
No.
Yes.
I don't know.
I'm thinking no.
Or are they just trained to do it and then feel like they like it? Like, do they just run on their own, like for fun?
I don't know the answer to that.
I feel
In
more
like Chevy commercials, they do. But I don't know how real that is.
Budweiser's, they're just kind of clopping along.
Yeah, I don't think they like pulling wagons with people on them.
Oh.
No, I think a wagon, I'd be pretty mad if I were a horse.
You get all the beer you want, though.
You can have it.
Do you get beer?
I assume so.
Probably.
You're in the commercial. How
Oh,
else
that's
will
true.
they
They
get paid?
probably get some. And if it's too hot, they just cancel it.
Yeah.
I've heard that happen. You don't have to do it anymore.
Horses have excellent memories.
That's good.
They're able to remember people, places, and other horses they have met even years before.
How do we know?
Seriously, who told you that?
Mr. Ed, I guess.
Who told you that?
Like, oh, he's happy. He must remember you. No, I got a carrot in my hand. I mean, you don't know who I am.
Ooh, sugar cubes. I like him.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I know that guy.
Horses can communicate with body language.
Okay.
Oh, they can read it.
Yep.
They can read it. Get off.
When you're holding the carrot and they bob their head up and down, then yeah, they know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Horses can sleep standing up.
I have heard that.
That's dumb.
Can sleep laying down too. Seen that.
Most horses are strong swimmers. We are missing an opportunity here.
Have you never seen any horse movie where they swim?
No, but I've been on Oregon Trail and we're trying to swim across that thing and we just sink right
Yeah,
to the
because
bottom.
you try to let them swim with a wagon behind them.
Well, I'm sorry. Be a strong swimmer.
You're supposed to fjord it or whatever. Everyone gets into the
Fjord. But you lose
get
2
into the
days.
wagon. Yeah, but
Not worth it.
the river's over 20 feet deep. A horse ain't gonna make that.
The horse, a
What was
prey
the
animal.
old movie like Black Stallion. I think the horse was swimming, like the thing caught on fire and had to swim. Something. That was an old one.
Horses can be desensitized from frightening stimuli. They need to learn what's quickly harmful. Examples: lion, cougar, etc.
Seems right.
And what is harmless? Example: tumbleweeds, birds, a discolored rock,
Puppy.
etc. But these are smart things.
Wait,
They
is
can
it-
tell
hold
the
on.
difference between a cougar
In a rock.
and a discolored rock.
Is a colored rock dangerous?
Yeah, a discolored rock is.
Be careful.
And that tumbleweed's eyeing me funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you found over there that you're reading off of, but it
This
feels
is
useless.
New Jersey
Oh, there you go.
Agricultural
Okay,
Experiment Station, brought to you by Rutgers University.
Mhm.
all
they
them
know so
horses in New
much.
Jersey. Okay,
Right.
all right.
What they know about horses?
They got tracks up there, right?
Honestly, though, is there a more, outside of like building your own golf course, is there a bigger flex than being like a horse owner?
Yes, having a private jet.
That all of the guys that own horses have private jets. That's a
No.
get in the door. That's like paying a cover.
The
No,
jet
you-
leads into the horse.
You divvy up the horse like the 18 people own it. Like you're splitting
Yeah.
a bill at McAllister's or something.
It is.
I would say some of the yachts that are out there would be bigger than owning a horse.
Owning a horse is up there, though.
Now,
It
show me
is-
yacht with space for horse on it, and then you've got the ultimate flex. Ultimate.
I feel like a horse on a yacht. Well, the horse is a good swimmer, doesn't need the yacht. Horse on a yacht is probably the biggest flex. If I were like a sheik, I think I would just have my 200-foot yacht and I would just put a horse track around the outside and my horse would just run around my yacht.
Like a warm up track.
Yes.
Get loose out there, and then you pull it up.
Like an elevated track at the YMCA at Shades Valley.
Nice. Yes.
Like I would just run my horse around that, like on my yacht.
There you go.
That's a flex.
That's
a
rich,
flex.
rich. Yeah. Richie, rich.
You have to be a
had that.
millionaire to do that.
Probably more. Probably need more.
You think take the over on 1 million?
Steven in Texas shares with us there is a Netflix documentary, Watch Race for the Crown on Netflix. I'm a pass.
Gosh, what can we think of next? We
I'm
follow F1 drivers. We follow PGA Tour players. We follow receivers. We follow quarterbacks. Now let's follow freaking horses.
Spin to fall in the offensive line.
I want them,
room,
honestly, I want them to come up with like race for the dirt or something like race for the roses.
It's
and then you follow the horses.
Race for the crown.
You follow the horses
called.
for a little
There I
bit
have it.
and then they interview the horses. And they use their body language to communicate. And we put subtitles at the bottom.
They'd remember you.
I really wanted to run fast. I gave it all I had.
I'm not going to share all my thoughts, but I'm going to pass on that documentary.
You're out?
Don't need it because I bet they don't show the end.
Hater.
That is true.
Some of these horses, when they retire, their life gets real good.
Yeah, like 1 out of 90. 1 out of 190.
Is that what it is?
It's not as many as you probably think. You don't need a bunch of them to do that.
Yeah.
Well, at least one side of it. We'll stop now. Move on. Talk top 10 quarterbacks coming back in college football next year per Greg McElroy next on Mac and Cube in the morning. E. Robinson tweeting back into the show. I can attest to the swimming thing. Rode horses on honeymoon in Jamaica, countryside, then down to the waterfront, then into the water, as in the ocean. And I could see the horse's legs in front of me. Horsey paddling. No, I'm good.
That feels, like kudos to you because I've ridden horses like in water, but like maybe like 3 feet of water. I don't know if I'd trust a horse to ride into like 10 feet of water. Me on the horse too. That feels dangerous.
Yes. I would tend to agree.
Jeremy tweets in, Cole's horse would be named Bloomin' Onion. I'm fine with it.
Boo.
Jolly tweets in, don't downplay that coverage. That was outstanding Derby coverage. You asked that man some very pertinent questions. Bourbon over horses and the Oak and Beer Barrel, best questions today.
Okay.
Love that. We have that going for us.
Well, to be fair, we've only had 3 guests, so it's not like there was a lot of competition out there. So it's Louis Jarman tweets in, are y'all hi-hatting people lately? Everyone is so appreciative of you even to speak to them.
Hi-hat like the cymbals thing for a drum set?
With a souped up tempo. Yes.
Okay.
I can't answer that question, but I do know that I feel very joyful this time of the year. I feel like there's a lot of fun things to talk about. The draft was fun. We got Kentucky Derby. We've had good spring. I feel like there's just a lot of very happy things. So people are just happy to be on with us.
LeBron's eliminated?
LeBron's out.
Dudes versus Gorilla?
Luka can't play defense.
We haven't had that conversation yet.
Well, not on air, but we've had it somewhat.
Not really. We all have it. I don't feel like it's necessary.
No, it's not.
We can take a vote on it.
The Gorilla.
Bill Belichick's coaching college football. There's just a lot of things to be celebratory.
Is he coaching?
He's doing some other things too.
Is he coaching?
Yeah, he's got a book too.
Speaking of said book, we keep getting away from this top 10. We're going to finish the top 10 quarterbacks, and then we can talk about these other things.
Oh boy,
we're going to finish this. We're going to get through it because we have teased it, we've talked about it, we've started it, we've stopped it. We're going to get through it, and then we'll go to Belichick's press release from yesterday. Drew Aller is your number 4 quarterback returning in college football. Why is he ahead of Garrett Nussmeier, who you love dearly?
I do like Garrett Nussmeier. I think Drew Aller and Garrett Nussmeier are kind of a toss-up. You can kind of go 4A, 4B. I'm not sure there really is a huge separator there. I just think Drew Aller's willingness to take care of the football gives him a slight advantage. Did throw a pick at the end of the game, and a lot of people are going to remember that in the Notre Dame game. But this is a guy who, lifetime, has the lowest interception percentage in the history of Penn State football. That's encouraging. I also think he did so with a somewhat underwhelming supporting cast at wide receiver. He obviously had Tyler Warren. I think if you look at what surrounded Garrett Nussmeier, what surrounded Drew Aller, I think Nussmeier had a little bit more, whereas Drew Aller had the best of the available options. I think this year, when you look at what Penn State has done to make sure that their weaponry is adequate and improved at wide receiver, it's going to give Drew Aller a slight advantage. While I'm still very bullish on Garrett Nussmeier, I still think he needs to be smarter with the football. That's been the one criticism, and I've also said that he also needs to make sure he takes off and runs some. Nussmeier's at 5. Love Nussmeier. I think he's a great player. I think he's got a ton of confidence in his arm. I think he's got a lot of ability. He's just not a guy that's going to threaten me a lot with his legs. And it's not because he can't, it's just because he hasn't. He hasn't chosen to. So I would like to see that level of that become a bit of a focal point moving forward. Aller, meanwhile, has shown a willingness to carry the football from time to time. He's not a runner, but he does have some athleticism and wasn't afraid to use it last year when the opportunity presented itself. So I give Aller just a slight advantage over Nussmeier, but still, top 5 quarterback's pretty dang good place to be.
Not bad. So Drew Aller 4, Garrett Nussmeier 5, Carson Beck comes in at 6. We know the potential. There's some good snaps out there. There's some bad snaps out there from last year, Greg. And I know the injury, we're not going to really say that has a lot to do with anything, but man, it's tough to kind of sit there and look at what he is, what he could be when there's a lot of rough snaps on the back end of what he did last year. Now, there were some great moments also, and there were some times that the protection wasn't really there, but kind of give us your explanation as to why Carson Beck is where he is on your list.
I think Carson Beck was the product of his environment last year, more so than it was a referendum on whether or not he can play. I just don't think he had any help Protection was substandard. The receivers were awful. There's just too many things that you can point to last year and say, you know what, that really wasn't on Carson Beck. And you look at some moments, like the moment against Tennessee last year, for example, where he carved him up. I mean, absolutely carved him up. Now, a lot of people remember the Texas game, who remember the Ole Miss game, and there was about a 3 or 4 game window there in which he was trying to force it. I think he was trying to take too many risks, but I think he felt like he had to. And I think if you look at how he played as the game went along against Georgia Tech, how he played against Tennessee, and really how he played kind of down the stretch, he played pretty good football without real dependable weapons on the outside. So I'm super bullish on a bounce back there. It's a bit of a dice roll, but when you look at the guys behind him, I don't feel like it's as difficult to justify. I think Carson Beck, this is about as low as he can go at 6. Because we'll get to the next grouping and you'll realize, are you really going to take this guy over Carson Beck? We've seen Carson Beck 2 years ago be as good as anybody in the entire college football world at quarterback.
Right.
And we have not seen that from the guys coming up. Carson Beck has, at one point in his career, been the best player at the position. That is important to note. So we've seen it. It's been done. Now, while recency bias would lead you to have maybe a slightly altered view of what he's capable of, the guy has been at the top of the game. And that deserves credit. So I'm giving it to him. And if I were to put this list together last year, he would have been number 1. This year, he's at number 6.
All right, Carson Beck comes in at 6. Lenore Sellers at 7. We know he has the ability to take over a game. And we know he's got a little ways to go. The development is not completely there just yet, but the ability to move with the football in his hands, obviously has arm strength, plenty of arm to be able to deliver it. Speaking of casts, that's one that I have a little concern about with Lenore Sellers.
Sure.
How good is he going to be able to be with what he's going to have around him?
I just don't think the receivers can be worse than they were last year.
That's fair.
So
the offensive line might be a little worse. You're not going to have Joshua Simon, which concerns me.
Are you worried about the offensive line, though, given his mobility? I didn't think the offensive line was great last year.
It wasn't. It wasn't great. If for some reason it's worse. I just think, and you and I have talked about this, you could make a very realistic argument that Joshua Simon was the MVP of that offense last year. He protected at times. He helped you in the short intermediate game, run after catch, added some physicality. He did so many things well. And I'm not saying he was elite at anything because he probably wasn't, but he just helped with so much. And so then I think you kind of wonder, all right, without him and then maybe without some other receivers that can help a little bit more, how is it going to look? You just don't really know.
Totally fair. But I'm willing to roll the dice. He has that type of upside. He has that kind of athleticism. I think he's light on his feet. I think he can move. I think he could be a 1,000-yard rusher. Like, I really think that's in there. I don't know if that's going to be part of his development, but I think he could. If that's where it goes, I think he could be that guy. And I just cannot imagine the scenario around him at receiver being worse. So I'm banking on growth in the passing game. I'm banking on consistent, continued growth in the run game and more confidence. Lenore Sellers' biggest problem last year is that he was not confident in the first 6 games of the season. Right. Like, you could almost see it series to series. Like, okay, he's really confident. Like, he got a completion on the first play. He's confident. This is going to be a good series.
Yeah.
Oh, he missed one on the first play. Oh, this is going to be a 3-and-out. Like, he really wavered. And I think as he gets older and matures, he's going to become more mentally tough and is not going to let one play define what happens on that upcoming drive. And that's where I think he struggled last year. The ebbs and flows. When he was on, he was unstoppable. When he was off, it was very average.
Yeah.
And I think we'll have a lot less average and a lot more really dependable, solid, steady, good play. Maybe even a few less spectacular plays, but the increase from the average to bad plays, that's going to go down. I think you're going to see much more consistent play at Lenore's. And to be honest with you, I think Mike Shule is going to help him a lot.
Yeah.
I thought Dow Loggins last year did a great job with him. And I think Mike has played the position. I think he's been around it. He's coached it in the league. He coached Cam Newton in the league. Like, I think he knows how to put a quarterback into a very comfortable situation and knows how to develop that position.
Well, and also, too, I think you'll agree with this, they have some promise at receiver. It just they got a little banged up early last year. Maybe Nick Harbor takes a little bit of a step. It's feasible that it could be okay or could be a little better than it was last year. My main concern is no Joshua Simon, man. Like, I think he was that big for that offense. I think it's going to make a big difference not having him. They got to have somebody else who can do some of those things just to be able to offset it, specifically if the receivers are not better than they were a year ago. When I'm with you, the receivers were not great. They didn't help a ton. They just didn't.
Not only were they not great, they were bad. Like, I'm just being real. Mazio Bennett was good. Other than that, there's not really a guy outside of Josh Simon I felt good about.
It's fair. It's fair. And so continuing to move down your list, after Lenore Sellers at 7, this is one that I think a lot of people are going to scratch their head on because going back to what we said about Mateer, maybe Levitt, they just haven't seen him. But Sawyer Robertson at Baylor.
He can do it. Guy can play.
What are the strengths there for Robertson at Baylor?
Well, how about the fact that last year he didn't start the season as the guy? He was sitting there splitting reps, sitting there getting backup reps, and then finally is thrust into a position where he can be a guy and then rips off 7-8 straight games in which he's lights out. He's got a great play caller in Jake Spavital that's going to put him in position to be successful. This is a guy that has the measurables, the accuracy. He's not overly mobile, but I do think that this is a guy that has big time potential. And now with an entire offseason of starting reps, he's just going to be so much further ahead than he was a year ago. Last year, he got by with just physical God-given ability. Now he's going to be able to take it to the next level with processing, with anticipation, with pre-snap recognition, all of those other things, which is going to allow him to be more confident in where he's going with the football, and more confidence is going to lead to more production. So I think people need to do some due diligence on Sawyer Robertson because I'm not sure a lot of people are super familiar with who he is, but that guy can go.
Yeah.
He can really play.
What does the system do to help him, or maybe what is he more capable of doing outside of the system that he's provided there at Baylor?
That's a difficult question. I think the system is the system. And
does it help him thrive, or is he a guy that you could see doing more no matter what he was asked to do?
I think I don't know if he's a guy that would thrive outside of the system, but the good news is he's in the system.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a question that needs to be answered. And I also don't know if it's a question that I know the answer to. If all of a sudden they decided they want to run the offense that they're running at Georgia Tech, I don't think he'd be elite from a number standpoint.
Yeah.
But I do think with the system that Spav runs and how he gets out of the quarterback's hands quick and how they create the double moves and they create the matchups and they want to go quick and fast and put a lot of pressure on the defense to get lined up and put a lot of pressure on the defense to find the matchups and how they move guys around. It's a pretty fun offense to watch, and one that I think is very, very easy on the quarterback. So I love Sawyer Robertson. I just don't think enough people know about him, and I hope that people this year take some time to watch this young. Auburn fans will.
Yeah.
They're going to find out quick. Right out of the gate. If you're an Auburn fan, you will see this young man play, and I think you'll probably see what I've seen in my study this offseason. I think he's a really good player.
DJ Lagway at 9. We'll finish this up quickly, get to break. No one's going to debate that. Some people may think it's a little bit too low, but you've told us he made some bad decisions late in games, and there were some times that he got off schedule some, and he's young. It's going to happen, but it's in there. The big-time play is in there, Greg. It's just consistency's got to continue to improve.
When I went back, there was more bad than I wanted to realize. I think if I just were to have gone into this process thinking about the highlight reel moments, he would have been in the top 5. But then when you go in, you realize, man, there's a lot of room to grow and improve. And I think that can be done. But I actually think that number 9 is a pretty good spot for him. You still have the upside. You still have the potential. I think he could take a huge leap this year. And it would not surprise me at all if at season's end, we're sitting there and he's in the top 3. But I also think that there was some young mistakes made last year at times. And there were some challenges at times with some of the decision making and the processing, but that's to be expected. He's a freshman. And a freshman that had to split reps in the preseason, and a lot of those starter reps went to Graham Mertz, and they worked him in accordingly. So I think he did a great job under the circumstances, but now I think it's time for him to kind of reach his ceiling and take that step.
Okay, and then finally at 10, I appreciate this one because it's for what it is, and it's not projecting. It's not trying to say this is going to turn into something else. Haynes King at 10. And when you look at what he does in his offense for his team with what he's been given the ability to do, I think he is one of the best 10 quarterbacks in college football. Is he probably one of the more likely names to be passed this year? I could see it. And I wouldn't have a problem with somebody saying that. But for right now, what he's done inside the offense with what he's asked to do and how he's asked to play, he should be there. I know some folks might not like it, but why is he there for you?
I think he's the toughest quarterback in the sport. And when I look at quarterbacks and I'm evaluating quarterbacks, there's really a few characteristics that I absolutely love. One is accuracy. Okay, accuracy is the number one attribute for quarterback. If you can't hit the spot, you can't play. Simple as that. Number two is toughness, because you're going to get absolutely unloaded upon a few times. You're going to get hit hard, and it requires a player that gets up immediately and responds accordingly and doesn't let that one hit affect how he goes about his business. Because if he were to show that hit hurt as bad as it probably did, the rest of the team would have an effect on the rest of the team. I don't think there's a tougher guy in the game. I think he's tough as nails. I think he has weathered the storm as a prospect, having been benched twice as a starting quarterback, and has now come out the other side as a guy that's calloused and prepared to be a tremendous leader. I think he's the best leader in college football.
Yeah.
I think you can make that case. He's just a guy that you absolutely want on your team. Regardless of what his role is or what his ceiling is, the guy is not going to be a franchise quarterback. That's not who he is. He's got an unorthodox release. He runs a little up and down, upright. I think he could be a backup in the league for sure, but I just don't see him as a guy that is ever going to be a franchise quarterback. But for college football, you need a guy that will die on the field. He's your guy. Like, that guy will leave it all on the field and will do whatever it takes to make sure that Georgia Tech's in the best position to be competitive. And I think for where he's at and the offense that they run and how they position him to be successful, I'm not sure you could ask for a better marriage between what he's doing with Buster as offensive coordinator and how he plays.
There you go. That's Craig's top 10 college football quarterbacks returning for this season. We'll get to some other quarterback news with a quarterback that was just drafted and then make a decision on what's next. Belichick, man versus gorilla, sneaker hybrids. All after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Some interesting news for one quarterback that was just drafted where worlds collide that we discussed a little bit earlier in the week, and that is Shedeur Sanders. You think he's going to end up in Cleveland as the starter, the backup? Maybe not. The Toronto Argonauts have added Shedeur Sanders to their Canadian Football League negotiation list.
Hey, we back.
I don't know what that means, but
we're going international.
It happened. Well, we already had the global draft, so he's not going in that.
Global.
But he is on their negotiation list. Does that just mean if he does decide he wants to play in Canada, they get the rights to negotiate with him? I don't even know what it means.
Correct.
Okay. There we go.
My rights were owned by the Hamilton Tiger Cats. We all know how that worked out. I think everybody that gets drafted in like the 5th through 7th round, their rights are technically owned by a Canadian Football League team.
Do we want to go Belichick or do we want to go man versus gorilla?
I'd rather do gorilla because even though that won't be a debate, I don't really want to get into Belichick.
It's not a debate?
I don't think. Well,
Greg?
Damian thinks it's gorilla. Everyone else thinks it's man.
Well, I didn't know about man versus gorilla until you guys mentioned it yesterday, so.
Did you do some research?
Of course.
You did.
Have you seen?
You don't just tell me about man versus gorilla and not like walk me. I mean, you can't dangle that carrot in front of me and not have me go deep in the weeds.
Have you seen the AI simulations?
No.
They're out there.
Oh, I need to look that up. How'd it go?
Depends on which one you look at.
Right. Yeah.
Man holding it down.
Now we have 100 gorillas versus 1 million men.
Right. Yeah. Fortnite's gotten into it.
Yeah.
You don't think it's a competition, John? You think this is done? 800-239-9569. If you guys would like to be a part of this ridiculousness, go ahead. For those that don't know, social media has begun this entire deal where could 100 humans take out one gorilla? Okay, now. That's all, there's really nothing else to it, and people are debating.
This is the best one I saw, though. By the way, I'm telling the gorillas what y'all say. It's them showing the phone to the gorilla.
Okay. There are no weapons involved. I'm assuming anything like that. It's
correct.
just hand to
Multiple hands.
They have hands, I guess. Yeah.
You call them hands?
Gorillas have. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's paws.
Yeah.
I think they're called mitts.
I mean, they have 5 fingers, don't they?
All right, John.
Yeah, it's easily humans.
What?
Yes, a single gorilla has a lot of strength, but it's 100
hand
human.
to appendage warfare.
Oh, okay. Appendage.
Yes.
Although I feel like humans have appendages, but all right.
I'm just gonna tell you, the gorilla's winning.
Yeah, by a landslide.
All right. Yeah.
I think.
I thought you were a road scholar, but okay. All right.
I think it's brutal. Like,
John, why do you think that man takes this?
Because a gorilla will get overwhelmed by 100 humans attacking him. Yeah, he would probably. I'm not saying 100 are walking out of this.
No, that's for sure not.
No,
All it takes is one swing with the gorilla, and he takes out 7 men. You just got to go.
And then there's 93 right there.
Just do
I
a
do
whirly
think
bird.
I do think the gorilla, if he's intelligent in battle, he goes just full helicopter here. Just makes 2 fists and starts spinning.
I don't think there's any chance that the men would. You can't get close to him. Actually,
Well,
that might be your only chance.
Yeah, but you could surround him as John.
What are
is
you
saying.
gonna do? Hit him in the head?
Yeah. You don't think
Again,
a gorilla
one
is
person
capable
doing
of
it,
being
but no.
concussed?
30 hitting it at once? Yeah.
There's no chance.
but the one hit from the gorilla knocks out.
One hit, you're dead.
Yeah, but he
It's
can't.
over.
He can't hit 20 people at once.
Correct, yeah.
Again, I'm not on a side here. I'm just going to help both. And since John's outnumbered, I'll help him make his argument here because I actually lean towards Greg and Damian. But I do think that the humans would have to have specific strategy.
Oh yeah,
outlined.
you got to coordinate. You don't just
Yeah, if it's
have a lottery. Hey, the 100
because
people win this
if
ticket.
one
right.
says, "Okay, I'm going to go," like I want to be introduced to the one who says, "I will first engage." I just want to shake that guy's hand.
He's probably in the hangover.
And say, "Congratulations to you, sir," because you're also the first one out.
Yeah.
I just love the animations where the people are flying like 30 feet.
Which
That has
is
been
which
fun.
is
Yeah, it's
feasible.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, men are getting worked.
I don't doubt that. But when it's all said and done, it's one gorilla.
By the way,
We're gonna win the war. We may lose a couple battles.
Hang on one second.
Up to 99 battles.
The average man that we came across this not that long ago. The average man is 5'9", 200 pounds. We did this just a couple years ago, just a couple weeks ago.
You brought that up for whatever reason that I can't recall.
5 foot. I don't remember what took us down that rabbit hole. But anyways, the average man is 5'9".
I think you were surprised at how short the average human was, and we began to debate that and talk about. Yeah, it was a real conversation.
5'9", 200 pounds. Mm-hmm. So if you take 100 average men, they have no chance. Now you take 100 NFL offensive linemen. Okay, I like our chances. But that is the anomaly. You give me the average male, we're struggling. Just saying.
If you give me 100 Will Campbells, Tyler Bookers, and Trey Smiths, we're good.
Yes.
Like,
how many?
Give me some Robbie Utzes in there, and like, I lean much more towards the human part of this. But
so, how many of the 100 will make it? If you,
at best, 25.
I do need to know this, though, kind of going back to what Greg said, like what has to happen from the human to take the gorilla out? Is it concuss? Is it a choke? I think choke is your only way you're probably going to get it done.
He'd break your arm in 2 seconds.
But if there were also humans on his legs, on his appendages, on his arms, around his waist.
I think if you're holding a gorilla by the arm, you don't think he could throw 200 pounds?
What about 5 humans?
Can you
and
throw?
You still have 95
How
more.
big is the arm?
I don't know.
Can you throw 2,000 pounds?
And we're not going to act like we at least get like a Jokic in there somewhere. We're not all 5'9", 200.
1 in 100 is going to be 7 foot?
No, but I'm just saying, like, you got to give us one King Kong Bundy. It can't be all 5'9", 200s. What was the short guy in the popular TV show that got mad at the Yankees and fought with Steinbrenner?
Seinfeld?
What was it?
Mickey?
Yeah. No, the popular guy.
Oh, Newman.
No, he's tall. The short, bald guy that's funny.
Oh, George Costanza.
Costanza. We're not all George Costanzas. You got to give us at least like a Dan Skipper in there every now and then, right?
Or Roman Reigns.
I'll tell you this. I'll take the gorilla over Dan Skipper.
If you're taking the humans, we need you
level.
to call in the final segment of the show. 800 the gorilla. It does, though. We don't know his techniques and fundamentals. He may have bad footwork.
I honestly think if
he
I
may
were the
lose
gorilla,
his base and go straight down.
If I were
every
the
time.
gorilla, I would just charge.
I told you I would go double fist spin. Just taking him out. All right, back with more after this. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Hastings wants to chime in on gorilla versus man. He thinks humans win. Hastings, why?
All right, so I think we're doing this the wrong way. You're saying somebody needs to come in there and be the first one to charge. I think we set up a honeypot for the gorilla, get him distracted, and then at that point, when the gorilla's back's turned, you have 5 people just absolutely barrage him, grab his arms. You got 2 guys per arms. And once you can get his arms down, you take a couple low blows, and therefore no humans actually have to take the first blow because of the honeypot. But yeah, man, you got to fight dirty. I mean, you're talking biting. You're going below the belt. You know,
I'm
theoretically
sure the bite
on the
will hurt
gorilla.
him.
Well, you know, I mean, we've got strong jaws. So I mean, like, as much as I talk, I think my bite force is pretty good. And so, like, I'll take the neck on it. I'll be the one that bites him in the neck. But if the Donkey Kong is allowed the King Kong spin move, it's a tough push.
All right.
But I say you honeypot him and take him. So appreciate it, guys. See you all.
Zach in San Antonio, right there on the Riverwalk, says the gorilla wins. Welcome in, Zach. Zach.
I appreciate. Hey guys, appreciate everything. You guys, by the way, I'm a school principal. We have a day off today. You're the only radio station that makes it to the firewall. So I've listened to more JOX than probably anybody in the history of the state of Texas.
I'm glad that you listened to us because we're the only one available.
That's a good job by Frank. Just cutting through firewalls.
There is no way 100 men, I'm not even sure 500 men can beat a gorilla. I had the pleasure of coaching high school ball down here for a while before I went to the dark side, became an administrator, and went to go clinic up at Pitt State of Kansas. And for those of you that may know, what's the mascot of Pitt State of Kansas? They might know.
Yeah.
They're the Gorillas. So their strength coach, O-line coach, old school O-line coach, smelled like coffee and dip the whole day. It was awesome. But anyway,
love that.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Anyways, they had this whole deal about how you can never beat a gorilla. And so, like, for instance, if a gorilla's PSI, their bite is like 1,800 PSI. Okay, the average, like, that's the most. That's like 3 or 4 Rottweilers. It's the equivalent of 3 or 4 Rottweilers. If a gorilla had to actually bench press weight, it could bench press almost 5,000 pounds. If it had to squat, it could squat almost 18,000 pounds. It also runs 35 miles an hour. And the other thing we found out that day, too, is that the gorilla's lower area can actually take a gunshot.
Yeah, I'm starting to lean gorilla.
I'm convinced.
The tail of the tape.
Thank you for the call. Sorry, Zach, we had to let you run. Dylan, quickly, why do humans win?
I think humans are going to win just because they're going to wear it out,
I do think exhaustion is something we have not brought up that is a fair point. You got to gas them out. Okay. John, why does the gorilla win?
I agree with everything the caller said before. But the gorilla has 4 arms. You're thinking 2 arms.
Appendages.
It has 4 arms, and it has the claws and the spit. You think about imposing, let's see, what do you say, intimidation?
That too, correct. Appendages and intimidation.